How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the immortal god sage in the Mass Effect and got harem with FemShep? Part 1. Huge shout out to Kuro Tamashi for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Prologue. Somewhere in the elemental nations. In a large, dimly lit room, there was a round table with several seats around it, and several people were sitting on them. Everyone seemed important and influential people, and most of them had looks of despair, fear, confusion, and many other negative feelings on their faces as they looked at the only person that they thought could save them. That person was Uzumaki Naruto, the supreme leader of the elemental nations, and the only person who could defeat hundreds of Reapers so far. Naruto-sama, what are we going to do? Those things are indestructible. We can do nothing to harm them. You and Kurama-sama are the only ones who can save us, one of the men whispered. Many at this began to whisper and encourage their leader. Besides, those things turn our allies into more of those things. And they are also quite resilient. Please, Naruto-sama, finish them all, a woman said. Naruto, who now was around 50 years old, but still retained his 20-years-old appearance, looked at everyone in the room. I understand, and believe me that I want to kill them all. They've already killed all my precious ones. Many turned into those husks, and those who were lucky died in battle. But even if I wish it, I can't do it. There are hundreds upon thousands of Reapers and many more their husks. I can't defeat all of them, not even with the 10 tails of Kurama. Remember that I'm a mere mortal, and when I turn into Kurama, I attract a lot of attention. Fighting a dozen is hard enough, but a battalion of them at the same time is almost suicide. This war has been long enough. 7 years is a long time. The people in the room could not help being saddened. So, is this it? Are we going to let them kill us, or even worse, become one of them? Another person asked. Naruto at him and shook his head. No, there is an alternative. I didn't use it because it would mean our annihilation, but there is no other viable alternative. I decided to hold this meeting here to tell this. Today we will defeat the Reapers, but it will also be our end. I will use the apple's discharge to kill them all. None of us will survive the attack. We all will die. Of course, I shall put this to a vote. You are the representatives of each front of the resistance. You will vote for them. Naruto then paused and looked at the expressions of each of them. Some of them had looks of approval, while others had looks of disapproval. Upon seeing these expressions, Naruto asked, what would you prefer? Become one of them, or die knowing that we could kill those bastards? What do you prefer? Now, those who agree on using the apple, raise your hands. Several people raised their hands, while some others were still fearful of this option. However, as Naruto had said, it was preferable than turning into one of those things. So, after a few seconds, everyone agreed with Naruto. Well, the decision is made now. Naruto couldn't finish speaking. The reason? They all heard a mighty horn, the horn the Reapers used when they were close. Everyone in the room looked at each other while nodding, just to see the ceiling above them breaking into pieces. Then they saw that a huge metal tentacle-like leg broke through the roof, destroying the room's table. Quickly! Get out of here! I will restrain that thing until I can get everything ready. Stay away from here as much as you can. Inform those who are in the camp about what has happened here. Naruto ordered, shouting to the people who were standing up and wiping the dust from their clothes. They nodded at the order of their leader. Naruto then made a cross with his fingers and shouted, Mokutan Bunshin no Jutsu, wood clone technique. 3 wooden clones appeared from Naruto, instantly jumping to help in getting those people out. Once outside, the wood clones looked at each other before nodding. They smiled and began to surround themselves with black chakra that started to grow and grow until it had taken the shape and size of an enormous fox with 10 black tails and with several red lines around its body. The fox was as tall as the Reaper, which was about 180 meters high. All of the wooden clones had already turned into Kurama, and they looked at one of the thousands of machines that were invading their planet. One of them went on the attack because he realized that the Reaper started charging its most lethal weapon, a spinal-mounted, magneto-hydrodynamic cannon. The Reaper quickly fired the powerful laser beam at the beast that tried to attack it, dissipating him instantly, but another of the clones had already moved to its right, clawing it and going through its kinetic shields without any problems. The attack left deep scratch marks on its head. The Reaper quickly turned around to destroy the mighty beast while charging up its beam. Nonetheless, the clone did not allow it to finish as he quickly enveloped it with his tails and claws, squeezing the Reaper tightly, which was moving its legs as much as it could to try to free itself from the pressure that Kurama was exerting. Nonetheless, the poor Reaper could do nothing, and the tails ended up destroying it. The clone then pulled his tails away and ended his Biju mode as he approached his companion, who had also turned back into his original form. "Those bastards are tough, but if they are alone, they are very easy to destroy," the clone that did nothing stated while smiling. The other one smiled as well. Nevertheless, their smile changed when they heard multiple horns coming from the sky. They looked up expecting the worst, but they couldn't see much since the clouds completely covered the sky. However, they suddenly cleared up, revealing not 1 or 2 Reapers, but more than 600. All of them were of sovereign class, and they were descending as they sounded their horns loudly. The people near the camp could not help but panic when seeing the number of machines. They had never seen so many at once. Maybe they found out of Naruto's plan to destroy them. But that could not be possible, they thought. Who could have told them? Then they saw their great leader transforming again, while the 2 clones began to create huge balls of chakra in front of their snouts to destroy as many Reapers as possible. Everyone encouraged the clones, hoping that the amount of chakra would be enough to kill them all. Naruto's clones, who were within the cloak of Kurama's black chakra, began to increase the size of the Bijudama significantly before merging them, turning it into an immense ball that created a large shadow several kilometers around. The Reapers broke their ranks quickly to avoid the devastating attack. But even though they were very advanced machines, they were not fast enough to dodge the attack that many of them their peers had witnessed. The clones then released the Bijudama, which arrived at breakneck speed to the Reaper's location, creating a massive shockwave that shook the earth and caused great wind gusts, disintegrating at least half of them. Even their kinetic barriers at their maximum power could do nothing to withstand such an attack. The clones then looked at each other, as the surviving Reapers landed. "Ha! It seems the boss is about to send them to hell," one of the clones stated while looking at his companion, who smiled while a chakra claw came out of his stomach, pointing it at the Reapers who were charging up their cannons. The clone then raised the middle finger of his claw, and although these machines did not seem to be upset about anything, the clone could tell that they were angry because everyone started strangely honking their horns. Then they fired their cannons, but the clone dodged the beams barely as he began to laugh aloud along with the other clone, who couldn't dodge because of the laughter. The other clone laughed even harder, just to hear a mighty rumble behind him. The clone looked back, like all the Reapers who had landed. However, upon seeing what came out of the building in front of them, which was a huge castle, they gave a jump and started flying away, but it was too late for them. "Yes! That's it, you damn bastards! Your rampage ends today! Ha ha!" The clone laughed as he shot tiny Bijudamas at the Reapers who began to flee. They were not powerful attacks, he was just harassing them to slow them down. A few minutes earlier in the castle's basement, Naruto was finishing the last thing he needed to have everything ready. "This amount of chakra will be enough," Naruto said while clenching his fists. "I wish there was another way. I wish I could have saved them," Naruto whispered, thinking about his deceased wives, sons, and old friends. "It was a pleasure meeting you, boy. I don't know if I will disappear forever along with you, or if I'll be reborn after several years. But let me tell you that you're the human with the most guts, courage, and character I've ever seen. We've had a great life. We did everything we wanted before these bastards arrived. You surpassed everyone. You are the strongest. Hell, even stronger than my old father, but we never imagined that we could have such enemies. So you shouldn't feel regret. You couldn't save everyone even if you wanted it. Now, kill them once and for all. Let them know that they should never have invaded this planet," Kurama stated. Naruto said nothing, he just approached the machine in front of him. The cylindrical machine was connected to several large and thick pipes that spread around the basement, and went from the basement up to the castle's roof. Right in the middle of the machine was a small door, Naruto opened it and made the apple of Eden appear in his right hand. He put the sphere into the compartment and closed the small little door again. The discharge has enough chakra to wrap the entire planet and reach outer space to destroy those who are up there. Naruto spoke as he heard a mighty rumble. The pipes around the room began to whistle and glow in a golden color. On the roof of the castle, a black metal rod of about 15 meters in length began to emerge. The glow of the pipes began to rise and said glow focused on the tip of the rod, creating a small ball of light. Then the light started to spread out, covering the castle while the expansion speed increased exponentially. In the basement, Naruto saw the light beam coming. He closed his eyes and waited for his end before everything went dark. Somewhere in outer space, around 100,000 years later, a woman around 30 years old with long blonde hair, thin lips, and small scars on her face was inside a spaceship. She had a white complexion and wore gray armor with the drawing of a red dragon on its chest. This woman was the commander's shepherd. She had just returned from a reconnaissance mission in a human colony where all its population had disappeared. She stood on a platform, and something instantly surrounded her, analyzing her shape and projecting it elsewhere. Her image was projected before a man who was sitting in a chair with crossed legs and smoking a cigarette. The man spoke after seeing Shepard's projection. "Shepard, good job on Freedom's progress. The Quarians forwarded their findings from Viter's debriefing. No new data, but it's a surprising olive branch, given our history," the elusive man said as he moved his hands, thinking about an incident that involved the Quarians and Cerberus a few years ago. He continued, "You and I have different methods, but I can't argue with your results." Shepard replied, "You ever think about playing nice once in a while? Diplomacy is great when it works, but difficult when everyone already perceives you as a threat. But more importantly, you confirmed the collectors are behind the abductions." Upon hearing the latter, Shepard crossed her arms and asked, "Why do I get the feeling you knew about them already?" "I had my suspicions but needed proof. The collectors are enigmatic at best. They periodically travel to the terminus systems looking to gather seemingly unimportant items or specimens, usually in exchange for their technology. When the transactions are complete, they disappear as quickly as they appeared, back beyond the unmapped Omega-4 relay. Until now, we've no evidence of direct attacks by the collectors," the elusive man replied as he puffed on his cigarette. Shepard nodded and stated, "The collectors are definitely a human enemy, but how do we know there's a connection to the Reapers?" The elusive man crossed the other leg while placing the ashes of his cigarette in the ashtray beside him. "Their focus shifted to humanity only after you and the human fleet destroyed the Sovereign. The abductions are related, even if the Alliance and the Council refuse to believe it. I won't wait until the Reapers are on the march. We need to take the initiative." Upon hearing this, Shepard stood firmly while carrying her hands behind her back. "If this is a war, I'll need an army or a really good team. I've already compiled a list of soldiers, scientists, and mercenaries. You'll get dossiers on the best of them," the elusive man replied as an orange screen appeared on his left, with several names. Nevertheless, he continued, "Finding and convincing them to work with you could be difficult, but you're a natural leader. I'll continue to track the collectors. When they make their next appearance, I'll notify you and your team. Be ready." Shepard raised an eyebrow and asked, "Miranda and Jacob aren't enough? How many do you need to keep me in check?" "I've made it clear to Miranda and Jacob that you're in charge. You decide who joins your squad. Everyone else on this list was chosen for this particular mission. They are the best. I'll do the best I can with what you've given me," Shepard added. "I'm sure you will, but before you go, 3 things." He then paused to look directly into the eyes of the projection of Shepard. "First, head to Omega and find Morden Solis. He's a brilliant Solarian scientist. Our intelligence suggests he may know how to counter the Collector's paralyzing seeker swarms." "I have not even started, and you're already giving me orders?" Shepard asked, crossing her arms. The elusive man just looked at her and answered, "I'm giving you an indication. What you do with it is up to you. I'm sure you'll make the right decision." Shepard nodded pleased and stopped crossing her arms to ask, "All right, what are the other things?" The elusive man took a drag on his cigarette as he rose from his seat. Then he turned his back to Shepard as he looked at the sun that was near his space station. Our network found out that a mass relay suddenly appeared near the Shrike Abyss. Shepard raised an eyebrow in confusion and asked, "What's so odd about it? It's probably just a dormant mass relay." The elusive man shook his head and replied, "You're wrong. This mass relay is not connected to any other mass relay that we know. Indeed, it's not connected to this galaxy, but an unknown one." This statement surprised Shepard. "Unknown, you said? But why is it so important? Explain yourself." The elusive man turned around again before sitting back in his chair. "That mass relay is connected to an unknown galaxy, and as you know, the mass relays connect to other stellar systems. The stellar system that is connected to that relay is not big. It has a single planet, and the relay is just 500,000 kilometers away from the planet. You know well that going through an unknown mass relay can be a problem. Remember the Arachne?" Shepard replied. "You're right, but Cerberus wouldn't risk contacting a species that could threaten the human race. This planet seems uninhabited, but this is where the interesting part comes," the elusive man answered. Shepard raised an eyebrow but remained silent. "We've detected a Reaper signal on this planet. It's quite old, and the signal seems about to disappear. I've tried to send some of my scouts, but something is surrounding that world. We don't know what it is, but it's an unknown element. It's like a protective barrier that completely covers the planet. Much more powerful than any kinetic barrier that we know. And passing through it is not straightforward, but a ship equipped enough might be able to get through." "A barrier covering an entire planet? That's strange. How old do you estimate the Reaper signal is?" Shepard asked. The elusive man took another drag of his cigarette before puffing out the smoke. "Around 100,000 years old." Shepard let her fingers on her chin as she pondered aloud. 100,000 years. Most likely that planet was attacked at a previous cycle. If you say that the signal is 100,000 years old, then the civilization that lived there is older than the Protheans. Surely, the beings of that planet left something so that future generations can fight the Reapers. Maybe that Reaper signal that you speak of has much to do." The elusive man gave a half smile and said, "Well, you know what you have to do, Shepard. Head to that planet and investigate that signal. If you find anything that could help us in the fight against the Reapers, bring it back with you. We will analyze it and create a weapon that can help us to defeat them. Then I'll need a ship to cross the planet's barrier. I can't use just any old one." "Well, you don't need to worry about it. Your request has to do with the last point. I've found a pilot I think you might like. I hear he's one of the best. Someone you can trust." Then a blue screen appeared in front of the elusive man, who touched something on that screen and finished the communication with the commander. Shepard then saw that the orange dome that had surrounded her started to go down, just to hear the voice of an old acquaintance. "Hey Commander, just like old times, huh?" Shepard smiled at the voice as she turned around. "Joker." She approached her former pilot and shook hands with him. Then they began to walk up the stairs to leave the communications room. "I can't believe it's you, Joker," Shepard stated as she followed Joker somewhere. She did not know where they were going. Joker only said to follow him. Joker smiled and replied as he looked back. "Look who's talking. I saw you get spaced. I just had a lot of luck." "But how did you get here?" Shepard asked. "It all fell apart without you, Commander. Everything you stirred up, the Council just wanted it gone. The team was broken up, record sealed, and I was grounded. The Alliance took away the only thing that mattered to me. Hell yeah, I joined Cerberus," Joker stated as he approached their destination. The Normandy Reborn soundtrack. "You really trust the elusive man?" Joker smiled as he looked down through a window, seeing a big spatial hangar, not brightly lit. "Ha! I don't trust anyone who makes more than I do. But they aren't all bad. Saved your life. Let me fly. And there's this," Joker replied. Shepard then looked at the hangar and heard her former pilot say, "They only told me last night." The lights of the hangar began to light up slowly, revealing an elongated ship with two propellers of the same shape on each side, But the most remarkable thing was the SR2 inscription around the ship. "It's good to be home, huh, Commander?" Joker asked. "I guess we'll have to give her a name," Shepard replied. Joker couldn't help smiling, and then they headed to the hangar and boarded the Normandy State Route 2. Once inside, Joker took control of the ship and flew away in the cosmos. Aboard the Normandy. Once Shepard thoroughly inspected her new ship, she walked to the command deck and found Miranda and Jacob there. "Welcome to the new Normandy, Commander," Jacob said, a man with a dark complexion, a mustache, and a beard on his chin. He wore a black Cerberus uniform. Shepard took a few steps forward, and Miranda said, "I've looked over the dossiers. I'd strongly recommend starting by acquiring Morden Solus, the Solarian professor on Omega. We know the collectors use some type of advanced technology to immobilize their victims. We'll need him to develop a countermeasure to protect us." She was a stunning woman with long black hair and delicate facial expressions. Shepard nodded. "You're right. Without that countermeasure, we'll be helpless if we ever run into the collectors." After saying those words, everyone could hear a synthetic voice saying, "Acquiring Professor Solus seems like the most logical place to start, but I strongly recommend investigating the Reaper signal first." "Who are you?" Shepard asked while looking at the ceiling of the ship. Upon saying that, a small projection appeared on the table that was behind Shepard. It had the shape of a ball with a neck, and it was entirely light blue. "I'm the Normandy's artificial intelligence. The crew likes to refer to me as EDI," the AI answered. "Okay, but why do you think we should do that first?" Shepard asked. She wasn't bothered by the AI. EDI replied, "According to the report of the elusive man, the Reaper signal decreases by every passing second, so we should investigate it before it is too late, Commander." Then EDI's projection disappeared. "Commander, we're done with the preparations for the launch. Whenever you want, select a destination on the galaxy map in the CIC, and I will trace the course. We've already added the coordinates of the mass relay that appear near the Shrike Abyss. If you want, we could go there right now. Trace your course to Shrike and we'll go to that relay in the old-fashioned way. I hope you have enough money to buy fuel, Commander." Joker joked by the speakers. Shepard smiled and walked towards the galaxy map. "Well, we'll go there immediately. Let's see what we find on that planet. Hopefully, you can get through that barrier, Joker." "Needless to say, Commander, my baby and I will go through the impenetrable barrier without any problem," Joker answered. Shepard nodded and ordered everyone to prepare themselves. So they did, and she went to the galaxy map to select their destination. Once the ship was close to the mass relay of their current system, the element 0 of the core wrapped the Normandy and sent them to the Shrike Abyss. Once there, Joker manually steered the ship to the new mass relay. It took them several hours, and upon arrival, the new relay took them to their new location. Nobody knew where they were. It was as if this galaxy had appeared out of nowhere, since there would have been records of it otherwise. Besides, something was blocking the Normandy's sensors. Nevertheless, Shepard only cared about the Reaper signal and whatever they could find on that planet. Shepard then went to the cockpit where Joker was arguing with the ship's AI. "How long before we get there?" Shepard asked. Joker looked at Shepard and answered, "In a few minutes. The planet is not far away from the relay." He paused and pressed a button on the dash. "This is your pilot speaking. I suggest everyone hold on to something because we are about to have a pretty bumpy ride." Shepard did as he suggested, seeing the planet that the elusive man had spoken about through the cabin's window. There was indeed a barrier covering the entire planet, which was quite impressive. The commander thought that the ancient inhabitants of the planet had put the dark blue barrier to protect whatever it was in there. Perhaps a weapon powerful enough to destroy the Reapers. Also, several remains of ancient ships were around the planet. "Kinetic shields are fully operational," EDI said. They were in front of the planet, more specifically, the barrier that surrounded it. Joker didn't wait any longer and moved the ship forward until the tip touched the barrier. They soon realized that everything inside the ship began to shake violently, and everyone did their best not to fall to the floor due to the shaking. "Kinetic shields at 60% and decreasing rapidly," EDI informed. Joker growled and increased the ship's speed, but it as if a wall of gum was slowing them down. What will happen when we run out of shields? Shepard asked. Itachi answered. The most reasonable outcome is ending up like the ships that tried to break through the barrier. Shepard nodded, and sweat fell from her brow when Itachi said that the shields were at 22%. Come on, baby. I don't want to lose you again, Joker said while trying to push the speed of the Normandy, which almost went through the barrier. It was quite thick, and that was why they were having problems. Shields at 5%. Redirecting the core energy to the shields, Itachi informed as she tried to give some power to the shields. Everybody in the ship felt that the temperature was increasing, making everyone sweat heavily. But it only lasted for a few moments since the temperature returned to normal. Shields recharged to 45%, Itachi said, causing a momentary sigh of relief on the crew. Joker, hurry up, I don't think Itachi can do that again, Shepard spoke, wiping the sweat from her forehead. Joker growled loudly. GRRR, almost there. Just a few meters. The ship was still shaking inside, and everyone was still holding on to keep from falling. Area Wurgarg! Joker growled one last time before smiling, realizing that the shaking stopped. Done, Commander. I told you that my baby could do it, Joker stated with a smile. Most of the crew clapped, while Shepard approached Joker to slap on his shoulder. Good job, Joker. Now take us to its atmosphere and land near. Shepard stopped mid-sentence since an alarm sounded all over the ship, while red lights flashed on and off. All then felt a tremor inside the ship, which forced many to hold on again to keep from falling. Joker? I thought we already got through the barrier, Shepard said while looking at Joker, who was pressing several buttons on the dashboard in front of him. I don't know, nothing is working. None of the controls are responding, Joker replied, trying to regain control of the ship. Itachi didn't know what was happening either, so she decided to remain silent. However, the AI noticed that something suddenly pulled the ship, and it was quickly leading them to the ground. Just when she was about to inform them of this, she realized that those who were standing fell to the floor, and those who were sitting showed signs of feeling a lot of pressure on their bodies. What the hell is going on? Shepard shouted as she tried to get up. Joker also attempted to get up from his seat, but he was also feeling the same pressure. I don't know. Ark. It seems that something is pulling us rapidly towards the ground. Hold on. It won't be a soft landing, Joker shouted with a pained expression. If they had not received space training, most of the crew would be dead right now. Maybe the planet's gravity is higher than expected, Itachi indicated, but not even she knew what was happening because the Normandy's sensors were still blocked. It was as if someone had been preventing this planet from being analyzed the moment they arrived in this galaxy. Upon entering the planet's atmosphere, Joker noticed that purple clouds covered everything. No land was visible. The Normandy continued descending, reaching the clouds, which flashed upon realizing the Normandy's presence. Now Shepard was nervous. She had seen many things in her life as a soldier of the Alliance, and she knew that something or someone was on this planet, and it was not happy with their visit. She was not stupid. She thought of investigating the signal quickly and leave the planet to avoid casualties. Shepard then surrounded herself with her biotic cloak, making an extraordinary effort to stand up. She got to her feet with difficulty, and then she slowly approached Joker to look through the window. She could only see purple clouds as they descended, and they seemed endless. Besides, there was a lot of lightning. After several minutes, they finally descended the endless clouds and saw the ground. Joker struggled to look at the commander, who nodded as she tried to sit in the seat next to him. Nevertheless, before she could sit, everything returned to normal. Joker quickly retook the Normandy's controls and stabilized it before landing it smoothly. When everyone on the ship realized that everything was over, they could not help letting out sighs of relief. Good job, Joker. How close are we of the Reaper signal? Shepard asked. Itachi replied. Approximate distance. 600 meters. Shepard raised an eyebrow. That close? She believed they landed far from their destination. Do you have any information about this planet? Shepard asked. Atmospheric and temperature conditions are similar to those of Earth. My sensors can only detect that. I'm sorry, Commander, Edi answered. Shepard raised an eyebrow. You sure of that? This weather doesn't look too friendly, Shepard stated while looking through the window. Everything was very dark, no illumination, there were no trees or lakes, and the land was of a strange bluish color. Yes, I have reviewed the analysis 1,000 times, and I have not encountered any problems. The weather on this planet has a similarity to Earth in a 99.9998%. Shepard didn't discuss the topic any further. She just nodded and turned around, seeing Jacob and Miranda at the cockpit's entrance. Get ready, we'll investigate the signal. I want to be off this planet as soon as possible. Miranda and Jacob nodded and went to their quarters to get ready. Shepard went to her cabin as well, and once there, she put on her blood dragon armor. Then she went to the ship's hangar, where Jacob and Miranda were already waiting for her. Remember that we are here to investigate the signal only. Don't get distracted. If you see anything hostile, shoot to kill. We don't want any surprises, okay? Shepard asked as she checked her M8 Avenger. Jacob and Miranda nodded, and they also checked their weapons. The hangar's door slowly began to open, so they quickly put their oxygen masks on. They could not believe that this planet had similarities with the weather of Earth. When the back gate of the ship fully opened, a strong wind gust came from outside. Shepard didn't flinch because of her helmet, but Jacob and Miranda had to cover their faces. Shepard here, we're about to descend. Joker, verify that everything is working in the Normandy. I want everything to be functional in case we need to leave this planet. Shepard spoke through the intercom. Aye, Commander, Joker replied, just to see them descending from the ship's platform and take a few steps on this planet's ground. Once Shepard stepped on solid ground, she felt a chill. She didn't know why, but she had a bad feeling. She then looked ahead and saw a castle. Well, what remained of a castle? This building quickly caught her attention because it looked a lot like a castle from the Middle Ages. Perhaps they had a lot in common with the ancient inhabitants of this planet. Shepard here, the signal appears to come from inside the castle. We'll take a look. Do you copy, Normandy? Shepard asked through her intercom. She got static as a response. Shepard repeated her words, but again, static. She turned around to watch her ship, and she was surprised by what she saw, or better said, by the lack thereof. The Normandy was gone. There were not even traces that the ship had landed. Normandy, Shepard here. I didn't order you to take off, Shepard said into her communicator, but there was no answer. Jacob and Miranda quickly turned around when they heard that. What happened, Commander? Where's the ship? Miranda asked. Shepard growled and signaled to move forward. She took her rifle and pointed it forward as she walked towards the castle. I don't know. I think this planet had something to do with it. Let's move, maybe we'll find the answers we're looking for in that castle. Inside the Normandy, Joker could hear Shepard's voice, but he was unable to communicate with her. Joker, the barrier that surrounds the planet is now surrounding us. Perhaps that's interfering with the communications and made us invisible to those outside, Edi reported while appearing in a table next to Joker, who growled and crossed his arms. Then we'll have to wait for the commander to find whatever she's searching. There are still a few minutes left for our shields to charge up completely. We'll just wait, and if the commander doesn't return, then we'll have to get through the barrier and pick them up. Edi began to make noises until she replied, I recommend not to do that. I have analyzed the barrier, and the results indicate that the ship will not resist as it did in space. This barrier is much more corrosive. Joker turned his head to look at the figure of Edi, and when he was about to contradict her, the screen that showed the exterior showed him something that disturbed him. Commander! If you can hear me, get inside the castle and hide. Did you hear me, Commander? Hide! Joker could only growl when he realized that Shepard did not hear his warning. But it wasn't as if Shepard couldn't take care of herself. Back with the commander and her team, they were going slowly towards the castle. There was a gate that had seen better days. When Shepard motioned her team to go to the gate, they suddenly heard some strange grunts. Shepard knew those grunts. She heard them on her visit to Eden Prime to get the Prothean beacon. Therefore, she quickly turned around and ordered, "Husks! Fast! Get into the castle!" Shepard commanded as she began to shoot at the husks, which were appearing out of nowhere. Jacob and Miranda nodded and gave supporting fire as they retreated to the castle. They walked up a small hill that led to the entrance of the castle that was surrounded by a dried canal. They kept firing, but the husks kept increasing in number. They seemed endless. "Commander! I'm about to run out of ammo, and we can't hold out much with our biotic powers. We must get inside!" Miranda exclaimed while reloading her M9 Tempest. Shepard nodded and ran towards the castle, jumping the small strait that separated the castle hill. They only stopped when they went through the gate. "We must block the way, or they will get inside," Jacob said while looking at the entrance. Shepard nodded and surrounded herself with her biotic cloak, throwing a powerful biotic attack that brought the ceiling down. "Let's go, this won't hold them for long." "No." Shepard couldn't finish speaking because the sound of powerful horns interrupted her. "What's that?" the commander asked nobody in particular before looking at the sky. "Reapers," Shepard whispered. "Commander, can you communicate with the Normandy? Those things will destroy us," Jacob stated while seeing nearly a dozen Reapers descending from the sky. Shepard tried to communicate, but she only got static. "Damn, we've come too far to stop now. We'll investigate the Reaper's signal no matter what. I'm sure we'll find something important in this place. Follow me. The signal is coming from the lowest part of this place." Inside the Normandy, everyone was alert in case the Reapers decided to attack them, and Joker knew that the situation was turning dire. "Come on! Hurry up, Commander," Joker said while resisting the urge of going to the castle and pick his crew up. Several of the Reapers then started to charge up their weapons before firing at the castle, which almost made Joker start up the ship. However, Edi's voice reminded him of the barrier that was still around the ship. Joker just growled and continued watching. It seemed that the Reapers couldn't see them. He thought that the barrier had something to do with that. Back at the castle, Shepard and the others walking downstairs at full speed. The whole castle was collapsing due to the attacks of the Reapers. Reaching the basement was their priority. After about 4 minutes of walking down the stairs, they reached the bottom. They were deep underground, and they could tell because they could no longer hear the Reapers. Since it was quite dark, they turned their night sights on with their Omni-tools. Shepard then looked at her Omni-tool, which indicated that the signal was inside a tunnel that was near them. "Stick together, our goal is 200 meters away," Shepard told her companions, who nodded and followed her from behind. Shepard walked forward while looking at her Omni-tool, but it suddenly began to fail. Some static-like lines appeared on it, which was unusual in an Omni-tool. "What the hell is happening?" Shepard asked. Jacob and Miranda didn't know how to answer because their Omni-tools were failing too. "Well, let's keep going, maybe it's because we're deep under the ground," Shepard concluded. They continued walking until they realized that there were 3 paths before them. "Choose a path. I'll take the one to the right. Check if your communicators work between us. Let me know if you find anything," Shepard spoke. Jacob and Miranda nodded and tested their communicators. "Okay, let's go," Shepard said, and everyone took a path. The commander could tell that this was still part of the castle. There was no doubt that the ancient inhabitants of this planet were great builders to keep these tunnels stable after so many years. Nevertheless, Shepard was intrigued about something. The ancient inhabitants of this planet did not seem very technologically advanced. She did not know why the Reapers invaded them. Maybe they had discovered something important, something that alerted the Reapers, and perhaps she could find that something where the Reaper signal was. If she could get that, whatever it was, then the galaxy could be saved from the imminent Reaper invasion. After a few minutes, she said through her communicator, "I think I've found something. Return to my position." Shepard put her rifle on her back since she saw a room that was glowing green. She entered the room and what she saw there surprised her. "A Prothean beacon. What is this doing here?" Shepard asked herself as she approached the artifact. Shepard got closer to the beacon. If this one was equal to the one in Eden Prime, then this beacon contained some information to defeat the Reapers. Even though her first experience with one of these beacons had not been pleasant, she would touch it to help her galaxy. She stared at the beacon and sighed as she approached one of her hands. When she touched it, everything around her changed. Shepard was now seeing images of people, humans fighting the Reapers. However, what surprised Shepard was the capabilities of these humans. They could control the seas, the skies, and the earth. She saw building-sized animals helping humans to fight the Reapers. They managed to defeat some of them. Nonetheless, they couldn't do much. She then realized that people began to lose morale. They just let themselves be killed or be turned into one of them. Nevertheless, everything changed when a person appeared, a very tall man with blonde hair. He had whisker marks on his cheeks and was approximately 20 years old, but Shepard could tell that he was much older due to the look on his face. Though Shepard could not hear anything, she realized that all the people started cheering on the man who just appeared, and she also realized that their confidence returned. The following events Shepard witnessed were things she would never forget. That man, no, that god in a human body did things that seemed ridiculous and unthinkable. Shepard saw him creating vast forests out of nowhere, wrapping and crushing several Reapers of sovereign class, besides using several elemental attacks. He also made the Reapers float against their will toward a black ball in the sky. It attracted them and crushed them there, turning the Reapers into huge spheres that remained suspended in midair. He even turned into a huge black ten-tailed fox, capable of causing significant damage to the Reapers with his claws only, clawing and causing deep holes anywhere those powerful claws struck. She also saw him creating gigantic balls in front of its snout before throwing them and causing catastrophic damages. At this point, Shepard believed that some deity decided to put a stop to the Reapers' rampage, but that did not explain why the Reapers still existed. Therefore, she continued watching in silence. She then saw the deity falling into despair countless times. Shepard could tell he lost many of his loved ones, but his grief only lasted what seemed a few days. Shepard then saw him more determined than before. For each of his loved ones he lost, he destroyed dozens of Reapers, maybe in a state of anger and vent. Shepard was sure that this man could destroy all the Reapers on his own. However, there were too many of them, and more of his loved ones died. Shepard saw him getting more discouraged until the point where he fought with less intensity than in the beginning. But still, everything he could do was amazing. The resistance forces of that planet decreased considerably, and even though the man was powerful, he couldn't save them all. Then everything changed, and Shepard realized that the man was now in a sort of war council, talking to some people who looked desperate. I decided to hold this meeting here to tell this. Today we will defeat the Reapers, but it will also be our end. Shepard could finally hear something, and that statement caught her attention. Nonetheless, she couldn't see more because everything was disappearing. She was slowly getting away from the only source that could tell her how to defeat the Reapers. No! Shepard shouted, putting all of herself to try to see what happened next, and it was worth it. Shepard saw the blond man placing a golden spherical object into a machine, which began to glow. Shepard then realized that a kind of cannon came out from the roof of the castle in which she was now, and a beam of light came off of it, which slowly spread out. The Reapers fled to avoid the beam, whatever it was. Nonetheless, Shepard knew it was a weapon capable of defeating them. How did she come to that conclusion? She saw the light beam wrapping some Reapers, causing them to stop functioning and fall to the ground like rocks. The beam also destroyed the Reapers stranded in space. And even though Shepard wanted to see more, she couldn't. She wanted to know what happened to the man who defeated the Reapers. She wanted to know what happened in the end. However, she felt her head burning, forcing her to get out of the vision. Shepard noticed she returned to the room, but the Prothean beacon was no longer there, which was strange. The commander then fell to her knees since she felt that something was trying to get inside her mind. Something was telling her to stop trying and give up. Shepard did her best to ignore those words. She pushed herself to the limit to ignore that. I won't! I'll stop them even if it's the last thing I do! Shepard exclaimed as she struggled to stand up. Interesting. Shepard heard the voice of a person in the room. She could not identify where the sound came from since she still felt that something was trying to get inside her mind. Where are you? Who are you? Shepard asked, taking her helmet off to touch her forehead as she turned around slightly. I'm here, I'm everywhere. As for who I am, that's not important. I just want what you are doing in my humble abode and what you want from this place, the voice asked. It was a male voice, which sounded wise and conveyed an incredible power that Shepard had never felt before. Shepard turned around since she heard the voice right behind her. However, she saw no one there. We detected a Reaper signal in this place. We came to investigate Gasp with the hope that it would help us in defeating the Reapers. Hope? There is no such thing as hope, not against them. There is no way of defeating them, you're just wasting your time, the voice replied. Shepard shook her head and answered, Why, you're wrong, there is hope. I saw it, I saw the ancient people of this planet defeating them. Shepard then heard a laugh, laughter charged with mockery and sorrow. Hope in reality is the worst of all evils because it prolongs the torments of man. The commander shook her head, and this time, she forced herself to take a few steps forward as she looked in all directions. Why, you're wrong, hope is our future. Without a future, we have no hope. Without hope, we might as well be machines, programmed to do what we're told. Shepard replied, and she instantly felt that whatever was trying to get inside her mind stopped. Interesting. You're someone interesting, Commander Shepard. I think I've made a good decision in allowing you to enter my planet. The fact that this person knew her name was a bit shocking since this planet was out of her galaxy. She didn't believe that she was known in other galaxies. How do you know my name? Shepard asked, shaking her head because of the feeling of discomfort that remained in her head. The voice ignored her question. You surprised me, you've managed to resist my influence. I used the same intensity the Reapers used to indoctrinate their victims. There's no doubt that you have a very powerful mind and an amount of willpower I haven't seen in many millennia, the voice stated. Millennia, you said? Shepard asked, now less painfully. She was surprised again. Was this person trying to indoctrinate her? Yes, millennia. You are not the first one to come here. But you're the first one who reached this far, the voice replied. What are you? Shepard asked, and just then, she heard a voice behind her. The correct question would be, who are you? Shepard quickly turned around, and the person she saw there shocked her. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and welcome to my world, Commander. Prologue End. Welcome to my world, Commander. Shepard quickly turned around, and she was surprised to see a person in front of her. It was the man of the vision, and he still preserved the appearance of a 25-years-old man. He was about 183 centimeters tall. He wore a white outfit that had strange black comma-shaped drawings around the neck. Besides, half of his suit was black with a thick waist belt of the same color. Besides, he had a sort of fan on his back. She tried to say something, but no words came out of her due to her surprise. The godlike man was in front of her, but she didn't know how it could be possible. The events on the vision should have happened thousands of years ago, so how could he still be alive? But how is that possible? She asked as she saw Naruto sitting in an armchair where the Prothean beacon had been moments earlier, which surprised her again. When did that chair appear? How is what possible, Commander? Naruto asked. How can you still be alive? She asked. Naruto sighed and answered, I am still alive by the events of life. What do you mean? Shepard asked. Has anyone ever told you that you ask too many questions? The Uzumaki questioned with a serious look. Shepard looked at him with seriousness as well. I want to know why you're still alive. I just think that you're. I am not, Naruto answered before Shepard could even finish. But if I didn't? Shepard tried to speak. I am not, Commander. I'm not a god. Even if I have the qualities of one, like immortality, I'm not one, Naruto replied. I immortality? Shepard repeated incredulously. Naruto scratched his head as he put a nervous smile on his face. Huh! Did I say that? Sigh, some things will never change. I always had a loose tongue, Danzo was right. Naruto began talking to himself, recalling his first sensei and his scolding. Shepard didn't have the slightest idea of what he meant, so she shook her head and took a step forward. Yes, that's what you said. I want you to explain to me everything from the beginning, Shepard demanded with a defiant look, and Naruto couldn't help smiling mentally due to her attitude. All right, but you may find my words, let's say it, unbelievable, Naruto stated. Trust me, after seeing you doing all those things in that vision, I doubt there's anything that can surprise me, Shepard replied. Okay. But take a seat. Naruto snapped his fingers and a chair emerged behind Shepard, who got a bit surprised. Nonetheless, she sat down in silence. Okay, I'll summarize the story for you. Well, when you saw the light beam killing everything that it touched, it did. I died that day, Naruto started, causing Shepard's eyes to widen, but the Uzumaki continued. I died, but the Shinigami gave me eternal life in exchange for exterminating the Reapers. Wait. Shinigami? Shepard interrupted. Oh, that's right. It is the god of death in your language, Naruto answered. Shepard shook her head. Yeah, I know that. The Japanese call that to the god of death. Naruto smiled. Oh, interesting, although I already knew it. You knew that? Shepard asked. Naruto made a stop sign and answered. I'll tell you later. Now I'll continue with the story. The Shinigami is unique, there can only be one in the entire universe, and you can imagine the amount of work it involves. When the Reapers appeared, his work increased 100-fold. He was very frustrated because no one could stop them. Not even the gods, because they can't intervene in matters of living beings. Or so it was until we showed up, the shinobi. He saw potential in us. However, he didn't know if the Reapers would ever come to our planet because our technology wasn't very advanced, and we were in another galaxy. Naruto paused for a moment to give her time to assimilate his words. But the Reapers eventually came to my planet, sooner than the Shinigami had expected. He observed us as we defended ourselves, and he was quite disappointed when he realized that my fellow shinobi could do little to stop them. But then I decided to kick their bastard asses. Our war with them lasted 7 years. We were not many on my planet. We were a small continent of no more than 50 million people. I tried to save them all, but I couldn't. In the beginning, there was only a maximum of 5 Reapers. But when I showed up, they sent a whole fleet. Although I could have fought with them until the end of the days, I said to myself it was not worth it to continue fighting. Why should I keep fighting if there is no one else to fight for? So, I decided to use the weapon you saw in the vision. Shepard nodded, and Naruto continued. After receiving the beam, I died. I went to the Shinigami's kingdom. There he told me that I didn't defeat the Reapers and that they were a minuscule part of their real fleet. I got furious, and the Shinigami offered me immortality in exchange for defeating them. I accepted without hesitation. I wanted to avenge everyone. I wanted to make them pay for what they had done. So the Shinigami returned me to life, waiting for the day when I defeat them all. But why have you never helped anyone? What are you still waiting for? Shepard asked, overwhelmed by the story she just heard. I'll only say that no other species convinced me. They were very individualistic. Many species thought only of their own survival, and they didn't care about the rest. That's why I see a lot of potential in you, Commander. I can see that you want to unite your whole galaxy. It's something I'd never seen, and I think it may be possible. You remind me a lot of myself when I was young, trying to unite everyone. That's why I allowed you to enter my world. It's because you are different from those I have seen so far. You have the charisma that can make people work together. Furthermore, there are no warmongering and conquering species like the Protheans in this current cycle. You even have a council of species, which is quite surprising. But that organization Cerberus is nothing good. Its leader supposedly wants to protect humanity, but what he really wants is human domination. How do you know about the elusive man? Shepard asked. She agreed with Naruto on that. She was working with him only because he was the only one who wanted to investigate the Reapers. Well, I can read people's minds if they are near or when they enter my planet's atmosphere. In your case, I could learn your language and everything about the current affairs of your galaxy when you and your crew came into my world. This surprised Shepard again. Are you sure you're not a god? Naruto shook his head with a serious look. I don't want to look myself as a god, I don't like that title. Back then, someone saw himself as a god, and I had to punch him a few times to talk some sense into him. If I start seeing myself as a god, I'll probably end up like him. A delusional person with silly and ridiculous ideas that could keep me away from my goals and objectives. You may see me as one, but I'm just a human who received the mission of a real god. Shepherd was still surprised. There were still a lot of things she wanted to ask. However, she remembered the reapers that were on the surface. Don't worry, they are not real reapers. They are illusions, Naruto assured, reading Shepherd's mind again. Shepherd squinted and said, Could you stop doing that? It's quite annoying. And how is that an illusion? Naruto rose from his seat, approached her, placed a hand on her shoulder, and both disappeared in a yellow flash. Shepherd couldn't explain what she just experienced. She could only notice that everything went blurry before appearing on the surface. There she could still see several reapers, but what surprised her the most was seeing the Normandy attacking the reapers while dodging their beams. Commander, I can see you got an excellent team. When your pilot saw that the castle started to crumble, he didn't hesitate to come to your rescue, even though it could have cost him his life. That's another reason I decided to help you. You have good comrades willing to give their lives to save their friends. That's something that one of my masters taught me in the past, Naruto stated, also looking at the ship that was fighting the illusions. I didn't even ask you to join me, Shepherd replied. Naruto chuckled and answered, I can read minds, remember? You've been thinking about that for quite a while. Shepherd tried to say something but sighed in defeat because Naruto was right. The next thing she saw was Naruto placing his hands in a strange position before whispering, Kai. She did not understand the meaning of the word, but she assumed it was something to remove the illusion because everything around her changed. The reapers disappeared and the landscape now looked normal. On top of that, the lakes, the chirping birds, and the animals that were running around were marvelous. It was even more amazing than the most beautiful landscape you could find on Earth. Even the castle that had crumbled now looked new and shiny. Shepherd then realized that the Normandy stopped fighting and landed a few meters away from them. While the ship landed, Shepherd heard the voices of Miranda and Jacob. Commander! Both shouted as they approached Shepherd's position. Miranda and Jacob looked oddly at Naruto since they had no idea who he was. Jacob was the one to ask. Who is he, Commander? I'll explain everything once we're on the ship. You just need to know that he will be part of our team. Naruto, they are Jacob and Miranda, crew members of the Normandy. The Uzumaki bowed slightly. Yes. I'm already aware of them, but it doesn't matter. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, a resident of this planet. Nice to meet you. Jacob and Miranda greeted him slightly, but Miranda decided to ask. Resident? How can that be possible? I thought they disappeared thousands of years ago. As I said, I'll explain all that happened here once we return to the ship, Shepherd answered, and upon saying this, she heard another voice. Commander! Joker shouted as he walked down the ship's hangar. He hobbled to their position, and there he looked at Naruto strangely. However, Joker ignored him for now and asked, Commander, what the hell is wrong with this planet? First, it looks like hell itself, and then the Reapers show up. But now the planet looks quite good and the Reapers disappeared into thin air. Do you know what's going on? Shepherd looked at Naruto, who seemed quite thoughtful. Joker noticed where her eyes went and thus he asked, Who is he, Commander? Shepherd sighed since she had to repeat the answer she gave to Jacob and Miranda. I see. But why is he dressing like that? And why does he have a fan on his back? Joker whispered, covering his mouth with his hand. The large fan on Naruto's back had caught everyone's attention, including Shepherd's, who until now couldn't tell what it was. Nonetheless, she chose to ignore this and approached Naruto. Now we will continue my mission. Are you sure you want to help us? She asked. She wanted him to say yes. She was confident that they would defeat the Reapers with Naruto's help. She couldn't deny Naruto's raw power. He was a bloody one-man army. The Uzumaki smiled and replied, I already told you, Commander. You won my respect and hence my help. Just let me do one thing before we leave. I have to bring my foxy friend with me. Shepard's eyes widened while thinking on that huge beast that she had seen him transforming. Therefore, she looked at him and asked with caution, "Are you sure that thing won't eat us or something?" Naruto smiled and shook his head. "If there's anyone he would want to eat, that would be me. It's been 5,000 years since the last time I saw him. He will be furious." Those who were behind them could hear Naruto's words and they thought he was crazy. Did he say 5,000 years? Not even the Asari lived that long. Then Naruto turned around, and everyone could see that his eyes turned purple. "Commander, I would suggest your crew to retreat. What they're about to see can shock them. Although they can stay, they will eventually see him. So, it's your decision." Shepard thought for a moment before asking, "He won't attack us?" Naruto shook his head, and Shepard nodded hers. "Okay. They already saw the Reapers. I don't think they can get very surprised," the commander answered. Naruto smiled before making a few hand seals at a crazy speed, which surprised everyone. Shepard already knew that he had to do that to make those strange attacks. The rest, however, believed he was crazy for moving his hands like that. "Kuchios, Geto Mazo, summoning, demonic statue of the outer path!" Naruto yelled before placing his hand on the ground. In a moment, everyone realized that the earth began to shake. Luckily, he had told everyone to get behind him, or else, his little summoning could have grabbed them accidentally. Shepard and her crew watched in horror as the ground broke to make way for an enormous creature that roared mightily after it emerged. Joker couldn't help but fall back in surprise, and Jacob and Miranda almost opened their jaws down to the ground. "Phew, it must be annoyed because I'm summoning it after 5,000 years. They heard Naruto say, who then placed his hand on another strange position. "Kai!" the Uzumaki exclaimed, and the Geto Mazo-S opened its mouth, and a strange black ball appeared in front of it. Then something came out from that ball, and it grew as it took the shape of something that Shepard had seen before. "Naruto!" Everyone heard the yell of an enormous dark 10-tailed fox, who was waving its 10 tails rapidly. Everyone fell back, even Shepard, since she felt a strange pressure over her shoulders. It terrified her. How big was the difference between hers and Naruto's worlds? She asked herself. Kurama's burst of anger made Naruto sigh, even more so because the Biju turned around and started running towards them to attack him. Shepard and the others watched helplessly as the ginormous beast headed toward them. Once it was close, the creature stood on its two hind legs before lowering its right front leg towards Naruto. Everyone closed their eyes, but Naruto suddenly yelled, "Shinra Tensei, almighty push!" After hearing those words, they instantly opened their eyes and saw Naruto using a mysterious force to push the beast backward. What the hell is that guy?" Joker asked, seeing Naruto flying to where Kurama landed. I think he's a god, but he refuses to see himself as one," Shepard replied. "A god?" They repeated in confusion, but they decided to observe and ask more questions later. They would ask her what was going on once they were aboard the ship. Meanwhile, Naruto reached the place where Kurama was, and he slowly stood up. "Have you calmed down?" Naruto asked. The Biju growled and asked, "You fucking fool! 5,000 years. It's been 5,000 years since the last time you visited me. Do you know how damn boring it is to be in there without having a good fight once in a while?" Kurama exclaimed as he concentrated chakra in front of his snout to make a Baijidama. Naruto, who was floating, smiled as he grabbed the fan on his back. "You want a good battle, huh? Or do you want me to kick your ass?" Hee hee. Naruto snorted as he put the fan in front of him. Kurama growled at the sight of the fan, so he charged up more chakra in his Baijidama, considerably increasing its size. "What the hell is that?" Joker shouted from his place when seeing the massive ball of chakra in the sky. It was immense. It was at least 5 times bigger than a football field. Shepard recognized that ball. She had already seen what one of those balls could do, and the one that Kurama was making was maybe 2 or 3 times the size of those she had seen. "He said he wouldn't attack us. We'll be in the range of the explosion. Everybody, get into the ship. Joker, get us out of here." Shepard ordered, but it was too late because the beast attacked Naruto, who was waiting for it with his fan forward. "This is our end," Miranda whispered, believing that Naruto and the crew would all die. Shepard knew that the blonde man wouldn't. She was concerned about themselves, not about Naruto. He already made clear that he was immortal, and that was something she wouldn't argue. If he lived this many years, it was for that reason. Naruto then prepared himself, and after a few seconds, he received the huge Baijidama with his fan, which quickly absorbed it. "Shinobi Geshi, Shinobi return," Naruto whispered after the fan had finished absorbing the Baijidama. He flipped it, and released a devastating attack from it, which looked like a cannon beam. The attack slammed entirely into Kurama, who barely managed to protect himself with his tails. When the attack hit him, the ground beneath him shattered and shook, and a huge crater appeared as well. In the distance, the crew could see the massive explosion, but it didn't reach them because Naruto focused the attack at a single point. They were shocked because the little fan absorbed such a massive attack. "Now I understand why you said that, Commander. That guy can't be immortal. Damn, where did someone like him come from?" Joker asked, astonished. I don't know. But we can defeat the Reapers with his help. That's all I know," Shepard replied, still amazed by their power. Even the most powerful biotic attack couldn't achieve such feats. A weapon of mass destruction probably could. But she was sure they were holding back a lot. Once the smoke that the attack raised settled down, Naruto descended slightly from the air. The Uzumaki noticed that Kurama had dirt all over his body, which made him smile. "Did you have enough? Or do you want another spanking?" Kurama pulled his tails away and smiled cleverly. "You are not the only one who improved." Before Naruto could say anything, Kurama disappeared in a huge puff of smoke. "Kagebunshin?" Naruto turned around and saw Kurama smiling widely, approaching his right frontal leg to him. Instead of dodging, the Uzumaki stood still while smiling, and when the Biju thought he was going to hit him, his leg went through him. It was as if he were a mere illusion, but he wasn't. Kurama knew that technique well, and for that reason, he asked, "What the hell? How can you use that jutsu?" Naruto smiled and replied, "After I ripped Obito's Sharingan out, instead of destroying it, I decided to keep it. Back in the days, my body wasn't ready to have his Sharingan. But it was possible after the deal with the Shinigami. However, I didn't want the Sharingan as an eye, so I created a jutsu to assimilate it. Now I can use the Sharingan's techniques without having the eye, hee." Kurama sighed and asked, "How long ago?" Naruto landed and replied, I don't know. About 50,000 years ago." "What? You have been able to use this technique since then, and you never told me." Naruto waved his hands in defense and replied, "Yeah. But remember that I sleep a lot, and I always forgot to tell you after waking up. Besides, you never pushed me enough to use it," Naruto said at the end with a smile of superiority. Kurama sighed in defeat, and Naruto continued, "But how can you make a Kagebunshin? That's amazing." "Well, it took me many years. I also have chakra, so using jutsus is not impossible for me. But I must practice them until I can use them without hand seals. You could say that I learned from the best. I tried to replicate what you did, and after several years I managed to do it. Although I can only make a single clone." "Wow, that's amazing. Maybe you and Red can now give me an intense battle," Naruto stated, and Kurama smiled. "You're lucky that I didn't fight seriously. I didn't even use 10% of my power because of those humans that are over there. By the way, who are they?" Kurama asked. Naruto then changed his expression to a more serious one. "Kurama, the day has finally come. After all, this time, we'll finally continue the mission that Shinigami-sama entrusted us. It's time to hunt down those bastards." Kurama asked with a straight face. "So, you've found someone worth helping?" "I don't know, they don't seem like trustworthy or special people." The Biju spoke softly to keep the visitors from hearing him. Then he looked at them, and they couldn't help stepping back when noticing that the great fox had his eyes on them. "He will eat us," Joker stated. Shepard shook her head and replied, "Come on, Joker, don't be so scared. He's probably convincing the fox to help us. Trust me, I saw what those two can do as a team. PFF, you don't need to say it, Commander. After seeing their battle, I do not doubt that they can do some serious damage to, well, anything, Joker added. Then they began heard people whispering in a strange language. Thus, they looked back and saw dozens of fine-looking people gathering behind them. These people had looks of joy on their faces. Some of them were tearing up as they looked at Naruto, who was finishing talking to Kurama. That woman, she is different from those who had come before. She wants to unite all the species in her galaxy. It reminds me a little of myself when I was younger. That's why I brought you out of there after so long. It's time to come back to me, my friend. It's time we destroyed the Reapers and avenged the deaths of our friends. Kurama then put a look of determination on his face. Okay, let's do it. I thought you would never decide to fight them, but the day has finally come. I want to crush a few of those bastards with my tails to remember the good times. Meanwhile, Shepard and the others tried to talk to the people behind them, but they ignored them as they continued looking at Naruto happily. Therefore, Shepard and her crew looked ahead again, just to see Naruto absorbing the great beast. It went straight inside his stomach. These people clapped with excitement, and Shepard and the others couldn't help hiding their shock as they saw Naruto falling to his knees after finishing absorbing the beast. Hell, Kurama! How much natural energy have you gathered with the help of the Geto Mazo? Naruto asked as he got up. Kurama increased a lot his power over the years. Enough to make you gasp, Kurama answered inside Naruto, who then shook his head and looked at Shepard and her crew, seeing several people near them. He disappeared in a yellow flash and instantly appeared in front of Shepard and her crew, who were surprised to see him teleporting. Commander, everything is almost ready. Just let me speak to my children, Naruto said, making everyone who came along with Shepard open their eyes in shock. There were around 20 people, who almost pounced on Naruto when they saw him. They are your children? The commander asked intriguingly. Naruto smiled as some of these people hugged him while others shouted Oto-sama. You could say that. But they weren't conceived. I'll explain it to you later. Naruto then looked at the sky and said, Red. Everyone heard a loud bang coming from the sky as a red cloud began to form there, and then it descended and took shape right in front of Naruto. After the cloud took shape, they saw a strange humanoid creature. It looked almost like a human, but it was entirely red. It was naked, but it didn't have a face or private parts. What can I do for you, Naruto-sama? Red asked in the strange language, but Shepard and the others found it a bit familiar. At his question, Naruto looked at Red for a split second. I see, Naruto-sama. So, the day has finally come. Then Red looked at Shepard. It's nice to meet you, Commander Shepard. It's certainly a pleasure to meet the woman who made Naruto-sama finally get down to work, Red stated with a slight bow, now speaking in an understandable language. The commander just looked at him. Her crew and Shepard had already seen different alien species, so Red's appearance didn't surprise them. What got their attention was that it knew Shepard's name. After all, they didn't hear Naruto mentioning her name at any moment. Perhaps you are what Naruto-sama needs to rebuild his life. Maybe you could. Red. Uzumaki interrupted, and Red apologized. Anyway, Red, you'll be in charge of the planet while I'm away. I'll come back when everything is over. You have enough power to keep the barrier and the genjutsu around this place, Naruto stated in his native language. Joker whispered to Shepard. Commander, is that language Japanese? It sounds a lot like it. The commander nodded and configured her Omni-tool translator. The rest did the same, as they also wanted to know what they were talking about. They were not wrong, as they could understand them now. That's all, Red. Take care of everyone. The Reapers won't come here, so they have nothing around to worry about. Naruto then turned to the crowd and said, My children, after 300 years I have awakened from my long nap. I know you are happy to see me again after so long, but now I must leave to fulfill the mission that Shinigami-sama entrusted me several millennia ago. But don't be sad, I will return. Red will take care of you as he always has done while I took my long naps. But now I must depart with these people. We'll see again in a few years. Naruto's children nodded. Even though they were people created with his Rinnegan, they saw the Uzumaki as their father, and he saw them as his children. Naruto created them because he felt lonely after the first 10,000 years. Kurama had not been enough for him. So, he first created Red, a humanoid being who shared all of his abilities, except the special ones as the Rinnegan or Kurama's chakra. A few hundred years after that, and with all the power he had accumulated over the years, he decided to create them. Besides, he increased Red's power until it was strong enough to keep the barrier that covered the planet. Then Red spoke. "And what about that, Naruto-sama? Are you going to use them now or you will save them for later?" Naruto shook his head and answered. "No, I won't use them yet. The Reapers haven't attacked in this cycle yet. So, they would be useless for now. When the Reapers attack, I will send you a message, you will know what to do." Red nodded before seeing Naruto turning around to look at the visitors. "Okay, I'm ready." Naruto spoke with a half-smile since he could realize that everyone was staring at him with wide eyes. However, the first one to leave that state was Shepherd, who shook her head and then nodded. "Yeah, let's go. But just so you know, I still want to ask you many things." With that said, they turned around to return to the ship, but not before saying goodbye to the people who had gathered there to see their father after several years. The Normandy's crew boarded the spaceship, and the locals followed them to give them a last farewell. Then the hangar's gate closed and the ship took flight before leaving the planet at full speed. "Good luck, Naruto-sama. When you need me, I will not hesitate to help you," Red said telepathically to Naruto, who nodded inside the ship. Then his expression changed to one of total determination. The time had come, the time to fight again. But this time to win. "Before I ask you any more questions, I should take you to your quarters," Shepherd said, and Naruto looked at her. Don't bother. I don't need sleep. I woke up about 3 years ago. So I'm not sleepy. This place will be okay," Naruto answered, referring to the ship's hangar. Shepherd and the others looked at him with a sweat drop. "You know, 3 years without sleeping is a long time," Shepherd replied incredulously. Naruto scratched his head with embarrassment and answered, "Well, it's not that much for me. 3 years pass in a heartbeat." Shepherd sighed. "You know, 3 years do not pass in a heartbeat. But I think it's time for everyone to hear your story. Come with me to the communications room," Shepherd ordered as she looked at Naruto placing a strange mark in the hangar of the ship. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing since Naruto answered, "Oh yes, I can teleport wherever these marks are. It's just to save time. I told you to stop reading my mind. It's quite annoying," Shepherd added. Naruto smiled slightly and replied, "I didn't read your mind, I read the expression on your face. I knew you wanted to know what this was, now you know. But before we go, let me go to the cockpit." Shepherd nodded and left the hangar with Naruto before going to the elevator. The others had already left long ago, they were the last ones in the hangar. After a few seconds, they reached the command post, and Naruto realized that everyone was looking at him with a bit of amazement, even though they could hide it quite well. "Commander, that man is Amatsu." Hello?" Kelly said with a slight blush while looking at Naruto, which made him raise an eyebrow, but he said nothing about it. "Hello, Kelly, nice to meet you," Naruto spoke, bowing slightly. Kelly imitated him before saying, "How do you know my name? Did the commander tell you?" "Yeah, I told him, Kelly. Now, is there anything I need to know?" she asked. That was a lie, but she didn't want her to know that he read her mind. "Nothing to inform, Commander," she replied. Shepherd nodded before walking forward. "Follow me," Shepherd said. Naruto did so, and after a few seconds, they arrived at the cockpit. Their Joker was arguing with Itachi. "Do you think that a human being can fly or put a huge beast inside their body and survive? I'm telling you, that guy is not a human," Joker stated. "Mr. Moro, I assure you that he is an ordinary human being. My sensors detected that he shares all the characteristics of one. The humans from his planet likely evolved a bit differently, and that explains his abilities," Itachi replied. When Joker was about to reply, they heard Shepherd clearing her throat. Joker turned around, but he remained silent since Naruto was there. Though he would never admit it aloud, the Uzumaki scared him a lot. "This is the cockpit. What do you need from here?" Shepard asked. Naruto took a few steps forward before looking at the pilot. "Have we gone through the mass relay?" Not yet. We'll reach it in about 2 minutes. "Why?" Joker asked. "You'll see. I just want to see what happens once we go through the mass relay," Naruto replied. Once the ship was close to the mass relay, Joker looked at Naruto and said, "We're here. You can go on," Naruto replied, so Joker nodded and moved the ship forward, going through the mass relay and returning to the Milky Way. "Done, we've returned to the Milky Way, Commander," Joker informed. Shepard nodded and saw Naruto looking out the left window. She saw him nodding, so she decided to look there as well. Where did the mass relay go?" Shepard asked while looking at Naruto. Joker raised an eyebrow in confusion and looked over there, seeing with surprise that the mass relay had disappeared. The Uzumaki answered, "As you know, that mass relay suddenly appeared in your galaxy. I placed it there using a special technique. Since I'm now with you, the mass relay is no longer necessary to continue connecting our galaxies. Red hid it from my planet since I don't want anyone to go there while I'm out. Just because they would be traveling to that place in vain." Joker spoke incredulously. "Wait a minute, are you saying that you can control a mass relay just like that? Do you know how advanced their technology is? It can destroy an entire stellar system if something goes wrong." "Yeah, I've seen what the destruction of a mass relay can cause. The Reapers tried to destroy my world by destroying a mass relay. That's why my stellar system has a single planet. However, they failed to do so because of the barrier that I put around my planet. It was during the Prothean cycle. After that, the Reapers stopped trying to destroy my world. They knew that they couldn't destroy me," Naruto replied, making Joker even more incredulous. "How old are you?" he asked, sincerely interested. Shepard decided to speak. "If you want to know, he will answer all our questions in the communications room. Come if you want, and EDI, let the crew know if they wish to hear this." "All right, Commander," EDI answered as she informed the crew if they wanted to hear Naruto's story. "By the way, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you, Flight Lieutenant Jeff Morrow." The Jinchuriki introduced himself, stretching out his hand to Joker, who rose from his seat and shook hands with him. "Anyway, now I want to hear your story. I hope it's half as good from what we've seen you doing on your planet," Joker stated as he wailed to the communications room. Naruto turned around and saw Shepard motioning for him to follow her. They arrived at the communications room and saw that people filled the room. They made way for them, and Shepard and Naruto stood at the opposite end of the table. Naruto greeted them, and almost everyone returned the greeting. The Uzumaki then asked, "Okay, what do you want to know?" Many raised their hands, but Naruto gave the word to Jacob. "How can you speak Japanese on your planet? It was strange." "Well, it's just a coincidence with the language that you call Japanese. And no, I don't have anything to do with the country called Japan," Naruto replied, and this surprised Jacob since he had not asked the latter, but Naruto had guessed it. Shepard nudged Naruto's waist while whispering, "I told you to stop doing that. People don't like it when other people read their minds without permission." Naruto rubbed the spot she hit because it was a very precise hit. Although he was immortal, he could still feel pain. He smiled nervously and nodded. Meanwhile, Joker spoke. "Naruto, right?" Naruto nodded and the pilot continued. "Well, I have 2 questions. The first one is, how can you do all the shit you did? And the second one is, how old are you?" Almost everyone had those questions, so they paid attention. "I'm 99,734 years old. I count the years not to forget those who were once special to me," Naruto answered, causing everyone to open their eyes and jaws in shock. "How is that even possible? Not even the Asari can live that long," Miranda asked from her place. She was quite interested in the abilities of this man. Maybe he could be a great help for Cerberus, and for that reason, she was listening to this conversation attentively. Though there was another reason. "Phew, man. You don't seem to be more than 20 years old. Joker spoke again. Naruto looked at him and answered, "My appearance isn't relevant. I can't get old or die, not until I complete my mission." This drew everyone's attention, so someone asked him about his mission. "Before I tell you about my mission, let me tell you my story. It may be long, so we may stay here for a long time." Naruto had no problem in telling them about his history and secrets. Why? Because he could easily detect if anyone tried or wanted to leak this information. Mind reading and feeling people's emotions were useful abilities. "It all started several years ago. The day of my birth." He told them the story of the Kyuubi's attack, of how he was the outcast of his village, hated and despised most of his childhood. Of how he fell into a secret organization when he was just 6 years old, led by a man who wanted to use him as his weapon. But over time, this man raised him as a son. He commented that this place changed his attitude quite a bit. He said that he became more critical and colder. But the leader of his village, Sarutobi, eventually found out where he was, so he ordered the head of that organization to remove him from there immediately. But it had been a little late because he had already changed. He had learned several things during his time there, stuff like his Uzumaki lineage, one of the most powerful clans that had existed in his world. He also said that he found a spherical object in the ruins of his clan's village. Shepherd had seen that artifact in the vision. She wanted to ask him about it, but she continued listening to Naruto's story in silence. He mentioned an organization that wished to hunt the tailed beasts that existed in his world. He told that he had one, which was that huge beast that everyone had seen, only that it had been an orange nine-tailed fox at the beginning. He spoke about the war against the organization after he had killed almost all its members. Moreover, he didn't stand still doing anything. He hunted down the last member after this one had declared war against the world. He had a tough battle because an unexpected enemy appeared. But he ended up victorious after several hours of intense fighting. Then he told them he had ripped out his enemy's eyes, Rinnegan, before implanting them in himself. It was to fulfill a promise he had made to his tailed beast, which was to make him the most powerful Biju. At that time, he didn't care about the other Bijus. He erased their consciousness with the help of the Apple of Eden. Then he merged their power with his Biju, causing Kurama to suffer the changes everyone had seen. His world was at peace for several years. People had chosen Naruto as their leader because he met the criteria. Besides, because he alone defeated the organization that tried to conquer his world. After a few decades, the Reapers arrived. He told them that their invasion took them by surprise, but they managed to repel the first wave. But when larger fleets arrived, they started dropping like flies. He could not save everyone, even with all his power. For that reason, he resorted to a weapon to defeat the Reapers. After that, Naruto briefly commented about his conversation with the Shinigami, Shepherd's arrival on his planet, and the reason he had joined them. Wow! So, were there more people like you? Capable of performing all those crazy attacks? Joker asked, surprised. Not everyone could do what I can do. Some of them were normal, for shinobi standards. A few were different from the others, and I was one of them, Naruto replied. Commander, we should send him to a Cerberus base. Our scientists would be glad to analyze him. Perhaps we could use that chakra he described if we extracted a bit and implant it into humans, Miranda recommended. For some reason, Shepherd felt anger at those words. She didn't like the idea of Cerberus analyzing Naruto. The Uzumaki spoke his mind before she could. That won't be possible. No one besides me can use chakra. Why do you say that? Jacob asked. Though he didn't agree with Miranda, he could not deny that it would be exciting to perform one of those elemental attacks. None of you have chakra networks. In the theoretical case that you can implant my chakra into you, you would die painfully. There's a whole story behind it, about the creator of the shinobi world and a few other things. Right now, I don't feel like continuing. I may tell you another day. But for now, I need something else and urgently. Naruto answered. What do you need? Shepherd asked. Naruto scratched his head and replied, Well, you see, I'm a man and you know. Most people understood what he meant, so they could not help blushing or laughing. Can't you wait a little longer? Shepard asked, pushing away the blush on her face. Well, I can. If I already waited for a few. Then Naruto began counting with his fingers before giving up. Well, it was a long time ago. The Uzumaki finished with a laugh. Shepard sighed and said, Okay, everyone, return to your stations. You are dismissed. Everyone nodded and started to leave the room. Joker, head to Omega. We need to find our recruits. The pilot nodded and went back to the cockpit. Shepard then looked at Naruto. You will find what you're looking for on Omega. Just try to go unnoticed, that place is dangerous. Try not to do anything flashy. I won't if nobody tries to hurt you, Commander, Naruto replied. Shepard raised an eyebrow and asked, What do you mean? You are the only reason I left my planet. If something were to happen to you, then I'd have to return to my planet. So I can't let anything bad happening to you. I can't allow it, Naruto stated firmly, and with a serious face, which made her blush slightly. Shepard quickly shook her head. What was wrong with her? She shouldn't be acting as if she were a teen in front of a superstar, a very handsome superstar. What the hell is wrong with me? Shepard asked herself, but she believed that Naruto would read her mind again, but he didn't because he still held the determined look. She shook her head once again before stating, Well, don't go thinking I can't defend myself. I don't need anyone protecting me. Shepard then walked out of the room and went to the CIC to set their course to Omega. Naruto smiled but said nothing. He left the room and walked around to examine the ship. He had seen many ships as he waited on his planet, but technology always made him excited. He had so many things on his mind to improve the ship, but he had to be sure if these changes wouldn't cause issues. Maybe he could get EDI's opinion. After that, he went to the CIC and saw Shepard setting their course. He also noticed that Kelly glanced at him, so Naruto winked at her, which made her blush. However, she hastily returned to her previous task, and Naruto mentally laughed due to her reaction. Shepard noticed Naruto's presence, so she told him about their primary mission. Although Naruto knew everything, Shepard decided to give him some information. After all, Naruto had already given plenty. 2 days later. 2 days had passed since Naruto joined the Normandy's crew. Although Shepard had intended to go to Omega as soon as possible, they couldn't do so because they almost ran out of fuel thanks to their journey to Naruto's planet. Besides, Shepard decided to replenish their probe's supply to extract resources from the planets on the Terminus systems. Shepard had also taken the time to learn more about Naruto, and she discovered that he was extremely wise and charismatic. He was a person with whom one could talk for hours without realizing how much time had elapsed. Though Shepard was not the only person to speak to him, many crew members did it too. Once they finished collecting the resources, they headed to Omega. Shepard chose Jacob and Naruto for the mission, the latter to see if he could follow the rules of her galaxy. She also wished to see more of his abilities. All right, we arrived at Omega. Remember, Naruto, nothing flashy, Shepard said in the airlock. Naruto smiled and replied, Okay, Commander. As long as they don't try anything against you. Shepard just sighed before checking her equipment one last time. Then the airlock opened and then they entered Omega. They slowly walked through a corridor, which had several windows that gave a clear view of outer space. Shepard was ahead while the men of her team followed her from behind. A few moments later, someone Naruto recognized as a Solarian intercepted them. Welcome to Omega. You're new here, aren't you? I can always tell. Allow me to dash. The Solarian spoke rapidly, but he couldn't finish speaking because a creature with 4 black eyes interrupted him. Oh. Hello, Moklan. I was just Dash. The Solarian spoke hastily again, looking nervously at the newcomer. Naruto recognized him as a Batarian. Leave, Fargut. No. Moklan ordered with a hoarse and threatening voice to the nervous Solarian, who quickly nodded and ran away. Moklan then looked at Shepard. Blasted scavengers! Welcome to Omega, Shepard! The Batarian greeted, bowing his head slightly. Shepard crossed her hands behind her back and asked, You know who I am? Of course. We had you tagged the moment you entered the Terminus systems. You're not as subtle as you think. Arya wants to know what brings a dead specter to Omega. I suggest you go to Afterlife now and present yourself. Maklan answered. Shepard wrinkled her face and did a stop sign with her hands. Cut the attitude. I'm not here to cause problems for Omega. Maklan chuckled and replied. Things explode around you, Shepard. You can't blame Arya for keeping an eye on you. Afterlife. Now. With that said, Maklan turned around and left. Naruto chuckled, and Shepard did not pay much attention to it. Then she gestured them to follow her, and everyone walked forward. When they were near the end of the corridor, they saw a human man in an orange armor punching a Batarian in the face. The Batarian fell on the floor and growled due to the pain. Then he sat on the floor and rested his back on the wall before looking at Shepard with a pleading expression. Please! You have to help me! No one said you could talk, jackass, the human replied, punching him in his head. Zaid Masani? Shepard asked. The man turned around and nodded. Yeah, that's me. You must be the Commander Shepard. I hear we have a galaxy to save. Shepard approached Zaid and shook hands with him. Good to have you, Zaid. We have a lot to do. That's what they tell me, Zaid answered as he grabbed his gun from his holster. Then he turned around and motioned to the Batarian to get up. I assume the elusive man told you about our arrangement. No. I guess he decided to leave that information out of the dossier, Shepard answered. Good thing I asked, Zaid said as he approached her. Picked up a mission a little while back, just before I signed on with Cerberus. Though you might be interested. Have you heard the name Vito Santiago? He's the head of the Blue Suns. Runs the whole organization. Seems he recently captured an Eldfell-Ashland refinery on Zoria and is using their workers for slave labor. The company wants it dealt with, the mercenary revealed. I'll make sure we get that done, Shepard replied. Good. Get it out of the way so we can concentrate on being big goddamn heroes, Zaid added sarcastically. Then he looked at the Batarian, who quickly ran away. Zaid quickly pointed his gun at the Batarian's leg and fired once. But the bullet never reached its target, since a barrier stopped it, and the Batarian found out he couldn't move his body. There is no reason to shoot him, Naruto stated with crossed arms. Shepard understood what had happened, and she could not help but squint. What part of nothing flashy did he not understand? Zaid approached Naruto and stared into his eyes. You are not what you seem to be. You're a murderer. Why do you care what I do with this Batarian? There is no reason for us to fight among ourselves. We all have a common enemy. Killing each other would only decrease our strength, Naruto replied. Zaid smiled and shook his head. Well, okay. I'm not stupid. I can tell that you're not someone to be playing with. But I must still take him away. Can't leave my work unfinished. Naruto nodded and released the barrier, and the Batarian instantly fell to his knees. Okay, I can't deny you that. Take him away, Naruto replied. Zaid smiled again. He did not know this guy at all. However, that look in his eyes told him he was extremely powerful and dangerous. He could feel it. It was strange, but he liked it. Then he reached down and grabbed the Batarian to take him elsewhere. After that, Shepard turned a corner and saw a door with a big green circle. Naruto, remember this, nothing flashy, Shepard said. She knew she was a bit annoying, but the commander did not want to see Naruto destroying the whole place just because someone decided to mock his clothes or something like that. However, she sighed and rolled her eyes after thinking that. Oh, you're right. I'll change my clothes right away, Commander, Naruto said since he had read Shepard's mind accidentally. Shepard quickly turned around. You don't have to. We don't have time. She could not finish speaking because a white aura surrounded Naruto's clothes. Then it disappeared, revealing his new clothes. Now he wore a mostly white armor. Those strange commas were now around the arms. On his back were 2 swords. They were red and shined a little bit at the tips. The change made Shepard nod her head. Well, now you'll pass unnoticed. And stop reading my mind. She sighed before turning around to open the door. Man, you must teach me how to do that. Jacob spoke while looking at Naruto with shocked eyes. The Uzumaki smiled and replied, We shall see. Then they walked forward, ignoring the stares from some people who seemed to recognize Shepherd. They went up some stairs and reached the entrance of Afterlife. The guards allowed them to pass without problems. When they reached Afterlife's entrance door, 3 well-armed Batarians stood in their way. What are you looking at? The one at the front asked Shepherd with an arrogant expression. Shepherd looked him straight in his eyes. Don't you have something better to do than to pick fights with people you don't know? The Batarian growled and answered, No. Just the ones who get in my face. Shepherd then took her gun from her holster and looked at it before saying, You see my gun. Do you really want to do this? She asked threateningly. Naruto smiled slightly but said nothing. Fine. You're off the hook. For now. See you around. The Batarian replied, intimidated. Getting rid of them without resorting to violence, nice one, Commander, Naruto stated with a half-smile. Shepherd smiled as she holstered her gun. Batarians are likely to get too smart for their own good. You must show them that you are not willing to back down. I won't let them intimidate me just because I'm a woman. Anyway, let's get inside, Shepherd replied before walking forward. They could hear the music as they approached the entrance. A few seconds later, Shepherd opened another door with a green circle, causing it to open at high speed. Now the music sounded a lot louder, and the place frankly surprised Naruto. The lights, the scenery, the people dancing around, everything was new to him. He had never seen anything like this in the elemental nations. The Aseris that were dancing on a circular platform made Naruto smile, and before he could approach them, Shepherd said, Wait a minute. Let's talk to the ruler of this place first. Then you'll do whatever you want. He stopped halfway and turned around as he scratched his head nervously. I just thought. He couldn't finish speaking because Shepherd walked towards the ruler's office. Naruto sighed in defeat and followed her. Who would have said that the commander would tame the strongest man in the universe so quickly? Jacob asked with a smile while looking at Naruto. The Uzumaki smiled as well and replied, Trust me, you don't want to make women like Shepherd mad. Jacob smiled but said nothing since the commander asked them if they would come or not. So, they quickly followed her since they didn't want to make her mad. They walked around the club's platform and saw some stairs that led to the ruler's location. Some Turians and Batarians were making guard near the stairs, but they said nothing once they saw Shepherd and her team. The commander and her team walked up the stairs, and when they reached the end, the guards up there quickly drew their weapons out. Naruto took this as a hostile gesture, and before anyone could say anything, the guards and the Asari who was at the top of the stairs had fallen to the floor, as if gravity suddenly increased tenfold. That surprised everyone, especially those who were affected by the mysterious force. The blonde woman knew who was doing this, so she quickly looked at that person and exclaimed, Naruto! Calm down! They are just cautious! Shepherd tried to calm Naruto down, who crossed his arms with a serious expression on his face. Shepherd then noticed that the expression on Naruto's face softened, and those affected quickly stood up. But since everyone heard what Shepherd had said, the guards couldn't help looking at the Jinchuriki with unfriendly expressions. You bastard! A Batarian shouted as he opened fire. Some of his colleagues did the same as it took them by surprise. The Asari told them to stop, but they didn't hear her since they continued shooting. Shepherd could only sigh and Jacob looked surprised as the bullets passed through Naruto, who was looking at his nails with a bored expression. After a few seconds of shooting at a hologram, Naruto sighed and said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I detected a hostile situation and defended Shepherd. The guards were looking at him with wide eyes since he was not a hologram, and because not even a single bullet had hit him. Es el diablo, a human guard stated in Spanish. Enough already! The Asari yelled as she approached her men. Then she looked at Shepherd and continued, Shepherd, keep your guy under control if you don't want me to kick you out! The Asari exclaimed. Her name was Arya Tloke. Forgive him. He still can't read situations very well. I'll talk to him later, Shepard replied with a reproachful expression as she looked Naruto, who just smiled. Arya nodded pleased and ordered one of her guards to skin Shepard with his Omni tool. The blonde woman allowed it. Meanwhile, Arya was looking subtly at Naruto. There was no doubt that his actions caught her attention, especially the ability that allowed him to turn into a hologram. Perhaps she could hire him. If so, she would have much more control over Omega. But Shepard was in the middle. She would have to deal with her. Maybe they could reach an agreement. After all, she was Arya Tloke. Arya then heard her guards saying, "She's clean." The Asari nodded and Shepard said, "I was told you're the person to talk to if I have questions." Arya turned around with a serious expression. "Depends on the questions." "You run Omega?" Shepard asked. Arya smiled arrogantly and answered, "I am Omega." She turned around to look at the club and spread her arms. Then she lowered her arms and approached Shepard. "But you need more. Everybody needs more something. And they all come to me." She then started walking around Shepard while saying, "I'm the boss, CEO, queen if you're feeling dramatic. It doesn't matter. Omega has no titled ruler and only one rule." She then sat down on the couch and sentenced with a cocky grin, "Don't fuck with Arya." Naruto smiled. There already were some people that called his attention in this galaxy. This woman was no exception. He also thought she was hot. "Sounds like either of us likes being jerked around," Shepard replied. "And on your ship that would matter. Here, we entertain my preferences," she replied and motioned Shepard to sit on the couch at her right. Shepard did so and crossed her legs. "So, what can I do for you?" Arya asked. Shepard nodded and asked about Mord and Sola's location. Arya said she could find him in his clinic. After that, the blonde woman asked about Archangel's location, and the Asari asked her if she wanted to kill him. "No, I'm putting a team together, he is on my list," the commander answered. "Interesting. You're going to make some enemies teaming up with Archangel. That's assuming you can get to him. He's in a bit of trouble right now. Just tell me how to find him," Shepard replied. Arya smiled slightly and continued, "The local merc groups are recruiting anyone with a gun to help them take down Archangel." "Sounds like that might be our ticket in," Jacob said with a smile looking at Naruto, who smiled back and nodded. "They're using a private room for recruiting. Just over there. I'm sure they'll sing you up." Arya indicated Shepard the place with her index finger. "I appreciate the help," Shepard thanked. "See if you still feel that way when the mercs realize you're here to help him," Arya replied with a smile. "Well, I should go," Shepard said as she stood up. Arya quickly caught her attention. "Wait, Commander. I have a few questions." Shepard raised an eyebrow but nodded. "What do you want to know?" the commander asked, expecting a question about how she revived. "Get closer, please," Arya said as she motioned her fingers and smiled at Naruto. Shepard looked suspiciously at Arya, especially because she was giving Naruto a rather seductive smile. The Uzumaki nodded and moved forward with his hands behind his back. Once he was close, the Asari patted the seat next to her, and Naruto sat down. "What can I do for you, Arya-san?" Naruto asked with respect. Arya was familiar with the term he used to address her. After all, she was an Asari with a couple of centuries on her back. "Oh. So, are you a Japanese?" the Asari asked with a smile. Naruto smiled back and shook his head. "No, I'm not from there. I'm not even from this galaxy." Arya laughed out loud, but then she stopped since Naruto, Shepard, and Jacob had quite serious expressions on their faces. "Really? Are you not from this galaxy?" the Asari asked confusedly. Naruto nodded his head. "Well, that makes things much more interesting," Arya stated, approaching Naruto a bit closer. Upon seeing this, Shepard got tired and interrupted with a serious expression. "Okay, Naruto. It's time to continue our mission." "Commander, let me talk to your man for a few more minutes," Arya replied with a serious expression. The Asari didn't care about Shepard anymore. She wanted Naruto to work for her. He would definitely help her rule Omega and get rid of all of her problems. She knew of people who disagreed with her being the ruler of this place, and with someone like Naruto, she wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. Shepard looked at her with the same expression, and she was about to refuse when she heard Naruto laughing. Haha, come on, Commander. Don't worry about me. I would also like to talk to Arya-chan. The Uzumaki spoke with a smile as she looked at the Asari into her eyes. Arya couldn't help smiling when seeing this. Yes, he was already falling to her charms. Naruto was aware of Arya's true intentions, but it was a shame that none of her plans would succeed. However, he was planning on releasing some of his tension with her help. Okay, do whatever you want, did Shepard reply angrily? But hey, it wasn't as if she cared. She then turned around and said to Jacob, "Let's go." Jacob nodded, but Naruto spoke before they could leave. "Wait, Commander. I can be here and with you at the same time." Shepard turned around and raised an eyebrow in confusion. Then everyone saw with amazement as wood started coming off Naruto's body. A few seconds later, the wood took Naruto's shape, widening the eyes of those who had not seen this ability before. The clone then walked slowly toward Shepard and stood beside her. "Shall we continue with our mission, Commander?" the clone asked quietly, ignoring everyone's shocked expressions. The commander just turned around and walked downstairs. The clone took this as a yes and followed her along with Jacob. Arya still had a dumbfounded expression on her face, but then she shook her head and spoke. "You're certainly fascinating. But tell me, Naruto, right?" Arya asked as she stroked Naruto's smiling face. The Jinchuriki nodded, and the Asari smiled back before continuing. "Tell me, Naruto, why are you with someone like Shepard?" Arya asked as she continued stroking him. "The commander has an important mission, and I decided to help her," Naruto replied, grabbing Arya's hand to put it down. Arya smiled and stood up. "What do you say if we take this pleasant conversation to somewhere else?" the Asari asked coquettishly, using her skills as a former dancer. Naruto smiled and followed Arya to a room near the balcony. Back to the commander, she and her team were getting inside an X-3M vehicle. After talking with the mercenary recruiter for the Blue Suns, Shepard had gone to where a soldier of the Blue Suns was waiting for them to send them to Archangel's location. Shepard walked in a hurry as if she wanted to complete the mission as soon as possible. Her teammates didn't pay much attention to her behavior, but they thought she was in a hurry because she wanted to continue her main mission, which was to destroy the collectors. The X-3M vehicle then took off and headed to Archangel's location. The trip was strangely silent. No one spoke a word, which was weird because Naruto didn't like being quiet, and also because the Uzumaki thought that Shepard or Jacob would ask him anything. 15 minutes later, they arrived at their destination. The vehicle door automatically opened, and Shepard did not wait for the skycar to land. She jumped to get off the ship, and the others also imitated her. Just when everyone touched the ground, a battalion of the Blue Suns appeared and said, "It's about time they sent me someone who looks like they can actually fight." The battalion's name was Saki. Shepard and the others looked at Saki, who continued, "They tell you what we're up against?" "Just tell us where to go," Shepard replied with a serious look. "Archangel's holed up in a building at the end of the boulevard over there. He's got a superior position, and the only way in is over a very exposed bridge. It's a killing ground. But he's getting tired making mistakes. We'll have him soon enough," Saki added. "I'll get to him. Just point me at that bridge," Shepard replied flatly. "I like your attitude, but we've got a plan in place. You'll be on a distraction team. Head straight over the bridge and keep Archangel busy so the infiltration team can sneak behind him," Saki replied. "Are you trying to kill us?" Naruto asked with a straight face. "Pretty much. But you look like you can handle it," Saki answered while shrugging. However, he continued instantly. "Head up to the boulevard and get to the third barricade. Talk to Sergeant Kathka. He'll tell you when to go in." Shepard nodded and finished. "I'd better go find Sergeant Kathka." "Good idea. Watch yourself on the boulevard. Archangel's killed dozens out there already." With that said, Saki walked away. Well, Commander, time to go and kick some asses," Naruto stated with a smile as he cracked his knuckles. Shepard didn't answer, she just started walking forward, which made both men in her team raise an eyebrow. Naruto didn't want to read her mind since Shepard had already told him not to do so, and he would respect her privacy. But both of them knew she was angry, and the Uzumaki knew the motive but not the reason. So he just sighed. Women. Would he ever be able to understand them fully? Naruto and Jacob followed her in silence, but the latter couldn't help smiling since he found the mission entertaining. They walked around the place, and Naruto saw Shepard speaking rudely to everyone. She requested them information. She asked them who they were and what they were doing here without minding her words. Undoubtedly, she was not in the mood to be jerked around. After Shepard had spoken to the leaders of each major organization, she got into a room that was filled with mechs. She hacked them and left the room before looking for Kathka. Once she found him, they saw 4 men standing guard near Kathka, who was repairing an A-61 Mantis gunship. Kathka? Shepard asked the guards. A human man in the middle pointed back, and they gave way for Shepard and her team. Sergeant Kathka. The Batarian corrected her as he turned around, stating his rank proudly. Then he pressed a button on his helmet, and its polarized mask went up. Ah. You must be the group Saki mentioned. You're just in time. Were you waiting for us? Shepard asked. Kathka nodded and continued. The infiltration team is about to give us the signal. Archangel won't know what hit him. Kathka smirked as he put his soldering gun on a table. Got any questions? This may be your last chance, Kathka asked as he lit a cigarette. Shepard moved the smoke aside with her hands before asking. Are you leading the assault? Ha! They don't pay me enough. I just plan the attacks and fix the damn gunship. You freelancers get the privilege of. He couldn't finish because a voice on the computer on his table said that everyone was allowed to attack. Kathka quickly approached the computer and replied. Check. Bravo team, go, go, go! After saying that, the freelancers outside quickly approached the bridge to carry out the plan, a suicidal one to be clear. Kathka then stepped away from the screen and looked at Shepard before saying, Archangel's got quite a surprise waiting for him. But that means no more waiting for me. He then lowered his polarized mask to continue repairing the gunship. Gotta get her back to 100% before Tarak decides he needs her again. Upon hearing that, Shepard grabbed the soldering gun and approached him before giving a pat to his back. You're working too hard. With that said, the commander smiled before nailing the soldering gun in Kathka's back, who screamed and squirmed as he felt the electric shock through his body. He dropped dead, and Shepard walked out of there with a smile on her face. But she stopped smiling after seeing Naruto's severe and reproachful expression. Commander, that was unnecessary. Shepard frowned and replied, Yeah? I don't care what you think. Remember that I am the one who is in charge, not you, she said while hitting Naruto's chest with her finger. Naruto shook his head in disapproval. That man was unarmed and posed no threat, Shepard. That was a senseless killing. Shepard had enough of the conversation, so she just said the first thing that came to her mind. Enough! If you don't want to follow my orders, return to your planet. I don't care, I don't need you here. That was an obvious lie, but Shepard couldn't help it since she was angry. It was for a stupid reason, but she couldn't help the way she was feeling. Shepard then walked towards the bridge, but Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her, stopping her in her tracks. Listen, Shepard, Naruto started. You're right, you're in charge, and I won't deny you that. But stop acting like a whiny little brat and tell me why you are angry. The Uzumaki spoke in a commanding voice, which surprised Shepard slightly. I'm not angry, Shepard replied without looking away. Commander, I'm old enough. You can't fool me, so tell me, why are you angry? Naruto asked as he put a hand on her shoulder. Get off me! I'm not angry, Shepard replied while pushing Naruto back. When she felt free, she walked forward again. The Uzumaki narrowed his eyes and asked, Are you angry because the boss is sleeping with Arya? Shepard instantly stopped and clenched her fists before walking forward again. After seeing her reaction, Naruto continued, Commander, I don't know what feelings you have towards me, and I don't want to find out. But let me tell you that I'm here just to destroy the Reapers, so I can't have a romantic relationship," Naruto sentenced, which made Shepard feel a twinge in her heart. The blonde woman wasn't sure what she was feeling. Maybe she felt admiration for everything he was capable of, or love due to the times she saw him down, and thus she wanted to be his support. She always thought she would dedicate herself exclusively to her career as a soldier of the Alliance. She barely knew Naruto, but something made her feel attracted to him. Perhaps it was the aura conveyed safety, strength, warmth, and many other positive feelings. It was strange, and Shepard couldn't explain how she could feel it. Maybe his immense power was leaking out. But it was not the moment to think about that, because if they kept losing time, their recruit could die. So, she grabbed her shotgun and walked forward before saying, "Enough, we'll talk later. Let's continue our mission," Shepard said in a commanding tone. Naruto nodded in satisfaction and followed her in silence. Jacob smiled but said nothing about the recent conversation. He then grabbed his gun and walked beside them. The Jinchuriki decided not to intervene in the upcoming fight since he wanted to see Shepard's skills, but he wouldn't say it aloud. After a few seconds, they arrived at a barricade and passed over it to get to the bridge. There they saw that the freelancers were shooting at a building that was at the end of the bridge, presumably where Archangel was. Shepard looked back at her team, and they nodded. Therefore, the commander prepared herself for her initial move. Naruto wanted to know what she had in mind, but since he didn't want to read her mind, he decided to observe in silence. Shepard then surrounded herself with her biotic cloak and moved in a straight line, leaving behind her a trail of blue light. She hit the back of one of the freelancers, who died instantly. The deceased's companion turned around, but Shepard quickly pulled his shotgun's trigger and killed him. After that, the commander covered her right hand with her biotics and used the power to wrap a freelancer who tried to attack her from behind. The freelancer floated against his will, and Shepard took her pistol and shot him in the head, killing him instantly. After that, the freelancer's body fell into the emptiness. "Your skills are astounding, Commander," Naruto stated after the bridge was cleared up. He didn't help at all. Jacob and Shepard did all the work. "I told you that I didn't need your protection," Shepard replied with a smile. The Uzumaki smiled back but then saw that Shepard turned serious and started running towards the building at the end of the bridge. Naruto and Jacob followed her since it seemed that there were still some freelancers trying to reach Archangel. They arrived at the building after a few seconds. It had neither doors nor windows. Therefore, it was easy for them to get inside. Shepard went up a ramp and grabbed her shotgun, but she kept it again because Naruto was already there, near the bodies of a few unconscious freelancers. "How did you arrive so fast? You were right behind us," Shepard asked. Instead of using his mouth to answer, Naruto disappeared into a swirling distortion and reappeared beside her in the same way. "Forgive me, Commander, but I went ahead since I didn't want you to kill them. I thought it was unnecessary," Naruto replied. Shepard stared at him before shrugging. "Maybe you're right. Anyway, are you sure they won't wake up and become a problem?" "I trust my skills, Commander," Naruto replied with a half-smile. Shepard smiled back, but then she shook her head and walked forward to look for her recruit. They didn't try to open the door that the freelancers had been attempting to open since it unlocked when they got close to it. Shepard entered first, and she saw a Turian in blue armor with a helmet of the same color, aiming his sniper rifle from the window that overlooked the bridge. "Archangel?" Shepard asked. Archangel made a stop sign with his right hand before shooting a freelancer who was taking cover near a wall. After that, Archangel stood up and slowly approached the recently arrived people. They approached him as well and saw the Turian taking his helmet off. The blonde woman couldn't help smiling after recognizing the person. "Shepard, I thought you were dead," Archangel spoke as he sat on a couch. "Gurus, what are you doing here?" Shepard asked excitedly. The Turian chuckled and replied, "Just keeping my skills sharp. A little target practice." "You okay?" the commander asked. Gurus nodded and answered, "Been better, But it sure is good to see a friendly face. He smiled before continuing. Killing mercs is hard work. Especially on my own. Shepard brought her right hand on her neck and rubbed it. You nailed me good a couple of times, by the way. Concussive rounds only. No harm done. Didn't want the mercs getting suspicious, Gurus replied. Shepard replied wryly. If I wanted to do more than take your shields down, I'd have done it, Gurus replied as he smiled. Besides, you were taking your sweet time. I needed to get you moving. Well, we got here, but I don't think getting out will be as easy, Shepard added, but she heard Naruto giggling, so she turned around and asked, Can you get us out of here? Of course, Commander. Do you remember the mark I placed on the ship? Uzumaki asked. Shepard opened her eyes slightly and nodded. Okay, get us out of here. Naruto shook his head and answered, I can do it. But I don't think your friend wants to take the easy way out. The commander looked at Gurus, who approached the window and pointed his sniper rifle at the bridge. Shepard, I don't know how he will do that, but I want to get out of here in an old-fashioned way. I don't like easy way outs, Gurus replied, waiting for more mercs to approach the bridge. So, what do you have in mind? Shepard asked. They'll slaughter us if we try to get out that way, Gurus replied, pointing towards the bridge. We can't just sit here and wait for them to come to us, Jacob added. Gurus nodded. We'll wait for them to come, we'll finish them off, and then we'll leave. Now that you are here, it will be easier. It's not a perfect plan, but it's a plan, Gurus replied. I didn't like sneaking anyway. Time to spill a little merc blood, Shepard stated with a somewhat malicious smile. Naruto said nothing when hearing that, but it reminded him of himself when he was young. The Turian said, Glad to see you haven't changed. Let's see what they're up to. Gurus and Shepard then approached the window and looked at the bridge. The Turian grabbed his sniper rifle and looked through the scope. It looks like they know their infiltration team failed. Take a look. Scouts. Eclipse, I think, the Turian said while handing over his weapon to Shepard, who grabbed it before looking through the scope. Shepard then saw several mechs approaching. She smiled and pulled the trigger, shooting and destroying a droid's head. More than scouts. One less now, though, Shepard replied with a smile, handing the rifle back to Gurus. Indeed. We better get ready. I'll stay up here. I can do a lot of damage from this vantage point. And you can do what you do best. Just like old times, Shepard, Gurus said. Shepard smiled and cracked her knuckles. After that, she jumped out the window and took cover near a pillar, waiting for the droids that were approaching. Gurus then opened fire, and Shepard shot some rounds with her pistol and also used her biotics to spare some ammo. Jacob came down too, standing a few feet away from Shepard. He was using his biotic powers to support Shepard. And Naruto? He was still on the second floor, sitting on a couch doing absolutely nothing, which Gurus quickly took notice. Hey, are you going to give us a hand? The Turian asked while shooting at some mechs. Nah, I don't see the reason. The commander is more than enough to deal with a few robots, Naruto answered as he leaned on the couch. Gurus couldn't argue with that, but he thought that Naruto wasn't good at using firearms since the only weapons he was carrying were the two swords on his back. Therefore, he just kept shooting, and after a few minutes, the mechs stopped appearing. They sighed in relief, and Shepard and Jacob returned to the second floor. They saw Naruto leaning on a couch while Gurus watched him attentively. However, they didn't pay much attention to it since they heard something heavy hitting the bridge. They looked over there and saw a Ymir mech dropping over the bridge. Oh, this will get tough, Gurus stated as he looked through his sniper's scope, ready to shoot. Shepard quickly stopped him while smiling. Don't worry. That problem should take care of itself. Gurus didn't understand what that meant, so he watched in silence. He saw the mech standing up, and after that, it began to shoot at the Eclipse mercs who had brought it. I get it. Gurus smiled as he saw the Eclipse mercs trying to destroy the powerful machine, which massacred almost everyone. Only a few ones remained alive, but Shepard and Gurus finished off the survivors, as well as the mech, just in case. Once the Eclipse mercs were all dead, Gurus turned around and stated with a triumphant smile. You're kicking ass, Shepherd. They barely touched me. And we got Jaroth in the process. I've been hunting that little bastard for months. Shepherd nodded and continued. We've still got the Blood Pack and the Blue Suns left. Think we can make a break for it? Maybe, let's see what they're up to, Gurus replied while turning around. He approached the window and continued. They've reinforced the other side, heavily. But they're not coming over the bridge yet. What are they waiting for? Then they heard a loud bang on the building's ground floor, which made everyone turn around. What the hell was that? Jacob asked. Gurus used his Omni tool to examine the building before saying, Damn it! They've breached the lower level. Well, they had to use their brains eventually. You'd better get down there, Shepherd. I'll keep the bridge clear. Shepherd shook her head and looked back at Gurus. I didn't come all this way to let you die. We'll split up 2 and 2 keep one of my team here, Shepherd offered. You sure? Who knows what you'll find down there? Gurus replied. Shepherd then looked at Naruto, who was still lying on the couch. Naruto, stay with Gurus. You know what to do. The Uzumaki just gave a thumbs up. Gurus looked at Naruto with a bit of askance. Nonetheless, he did not argue and just thanked Shepherd. After that, the Turian gave her some indications. Go down a level. The basement door is on the west side of the main door, behind the stairs. I'll radio directions if you need help. But you've got to get down there quick. Good luck. With that said, everyone drew their weapons out and went to their positions. Shepherd and Jacob went to the ground floor before heading for the shutters that were at the back of the building. They wanted to close them down before the reinforcements of the Blood Pack arrived. Meanwhile, Naruto was still lying on the couch, hearing Gurus grunting as he shot at anything he could see through his scope. The Uzumaki noticed that the Turian was running out of ammo, and there were still a lot of enemies coming from the bridge. Therefore, he stood up and approached him. Need help? Naruto asked. I do. I wouldn't mind a hand over here, Gurus replied while shooting at those who were close to the building. Okay. Just sit around there. I'll be back in a second, Naruto stated. Gurus was going to tell him to stop joking around, but when he turned around, Naruto was no longer there. Gurus looked over the window, and he couldn't believe what he saw down there. There a yellow stain was moving in zigzag at an impossible speed, hitting every merc in its path and making them fall unconscious when it barely touched them. He shook his head, and the yellow stain suddenly disappeared. I told you I would be back soon. Gurus then turned around in shock. Damn, that was fast. He could barely see his moves. How the hell did you do that? The Turian asked, genuinely surprised. He had never seen anyone move like that before. Besides, he was sure the blonde man used some kind of teleportation device. You'll know later. By the way, my name is Naruto. The Uzumaki introduced himself, bowing slightly. Gurus, the Turian replied as he stretched out his hand. Naruto returned the greeting, and after that, Gurus led his fingers near his ear before saying, Yes. I hear you, Shepherd. That's the last shutter. Then you can return. The Turian then looked back at the bridge and noticed that no one else was coming. Naruto probably finished them all. Are they dead? Gurus asked while looking at the bodies around the bridge. No, they're not. They're just unconscious. I don't like killing anymore, Naruto replied, and Gurus just nodded. Shepherd got an interesting recruit, though he was not going to discuss his beliefs. Moments later, the Turian heard a familiar growl. Rhea! Rip them to shreds! A Krogan of the Blood Pack exclaimed as he entered through a door on the lower level. Several Krogans and Vorchas accompanied him. The Krogan then heard a shot, and a Vorcha at his side got his brains blown out. Gurus smiled as he reloaded his rifle after drawing the attention of the Krogan battlemaster, who growled furiously at the sight of his nemesis. The name of this Krogan was Garm, and he grunted and grabbed his shotgun before running to the Turian's location. Meanwhile, Naruto prepared himself to knock them unconscious. Nonetheless, Shepherd and Jacob arrived before he could do anything, and they wasted no time and started shooting at the members of the Blood Pack. Shepard used her biotic charge repeatedly, making sure of not staying too long around her enemies, and Jacob supported her from behind. Moments later, they killed every member of the blood pack at the lower level. Thus, they quickly went to the top level to help Geras. When they arrived, they saw the Turian with a foot over Garm's body. "Shepard, this guy is quite dangerous," Geras stated while looking at Naruto, who was lying on the couch again. Shepard raised an eyebrow in confusion. Although she knew that Naruto was extremely dangerous, she wanted to know why he came to that conclusion. "Why?" she asked. Geras sighed before looking at Naruto. "I don't know what he did. First, he pointed his hand at this bastard, and then his barriers and shields were gone. He took down all his protection by just pointing his hand at him. How crazy is that? Hell, where did you find this guy?" Shepard smiled as she approached Geras. "I'll tell you on the Normandy." Geras raised an eyebrow. He thought the collectors destroyed the Normandy years ago. He was about to ask her about it, but a gunship suddenly appeared outside the window. "Archangel!" a hoarse voice shouted. Geras turned around, and the gunship opened fire. Jacob and Shepard quickly took cover, but the Turian hesitated and ended up receiving multiple gunshots. Once he fell to the floor, he crawled to take cover. "You think you can screw with the Blue Suns?" the angry voice exclaimed through the gunship's speakers. Luckily for Geras, his shields had blocked most of the impacts, and only a few shots damaged him. "This ends now," the voice shouted, firing a small missile where Geras took cover. The Turian closed his eyes, thinking it would be his end. But after a few seconds, he could only hear a propellant sound. Therefore, Geras opened his eyes, and his surprise was great when seeing that a human hand had stopped the missile a few centimeters from his face. Geras backed away a little and looked to his right, seeing that it was Naruto, who looked at him with an apologetic expression before saying, "I'm sorry. I was overconfident, and you got hurt because of that. Now I will end this." The Turian wanted to tell him that it was not his fault, but he was speechless when a swirling distortion made the missile in his hands disappear. The person piloting the gunship couldn't believe what he had seen. But his anger quickly overshadowed his surprise, so he continued his assault, this time firing multiple missiles at the person who managed to stop the first one. Geras was sure that the building would blow up in pieces, but Jacob and Shepard didn't even flinch and just watched in silence, waiting for the outcome. The missiles quickly approached their target, who remained immobile and with his eyes closed. The spectators wondered if he intended to stop those missiles with his hands, but it was physically impossible since he only had 2, and the missiles were 6. However, they soon realized that they couldn't apply their logic to him since he had grown 4 extra arms. Those present saw him stop each of the 6 missiles with each of his 6 hands without breaking a sweat. At that moment, the Uzumaki opened his eyes, and the gunship's pilot was the only one that saw that his eyes turned purple with strange ripple patterns. The pilot felt a chill all over his body, but he growled and prepared himself to change his plan of attack. However, he noted that the strange individual turned all his arms, and in doing so, the missiles he had launched moments before were now pointing at him. The blonde then released his grip on the missiles. Therefore, they returned to their place of origin at full speed. "Do you think that will be enough, freak?" the pilot exclaimed as he moved his ship out of the way. He smiled when seeing that the missiles passed just below his ship, but that smile disappeared when his computer notified him that something was approaching from above. He looked up and saw the blonde man falling towards the left wing with a sword in his hands. The pilot was sure there was no way he could do something to his ship with a mere sword. However, he found that all his assumptions had been wrong when the sword cut the left wing like a hot knife through butter. The spectators in the building saw the ship losing control before falling into the nothingness, and then they could no longer hear the person piloting it. Then, a yellow flash appeared in front of them and revealed Naruto, who sheathed his sword before saying, "Shall we return?" "What the hell are you?" Geras asked before falling unconscious. His injuries and everything he had seen recently had been too much for him. I can't blame him," Shepard mentioned with a smile as she approached her old comrade. "Can you get us out of here?" the commander continued as she looked at the immortal blonde. Naruto nodded, and he and Jacob approached Shepard, Moments later, they disappeared in a yellow flash and instantly appeared in the ship's hangar. Commander, is there an infirmary on the ship? Naruto asked. Shepard nodded. Yes, it's in the deck 3. Follow me. He'll wake up in a few hours as if nothing had happened to him. I just want him to have a good place to rest, Naruto replied as he stopped using his medical ninjutsu. Shepard approached a little and saw that Kuro's wounds had already healed. Amazing, Shepard whispered, surprised at another of Naruto's abilities. Was there anything he couldn't do? Anyway, Commander. Deck 3 is above us. I'll leave Kuro in the infirmary. See you up there. With that said, Naruto floated and passed through the roof with Kuro in his arms. Shepard and Jacob had already learned to restrain their astonishment when seeing Naruto's abilities, but they couldn't help being surprised at every instance. That guy doesn't know how to be discreet, Jacob stated with a smile. Shepard smiled and sighed. You're right. Well, I have a pending chat with him. I'm Commander Shepard, and no one escapes so easily from me. Jacob raised an eyebrow and asked confusedly. Commander, don't you think that it's a bit too early? It was not as if he cared. But they had met Naruto just a few days ago. That's none of your business, Jacob. I don't even know what I'm feeling. That's why I must talk with him to clarify this. With that said, she went to the ship's elevator. She didn't wait for Jacob and pressed a button to go to deck 3. Once the elevator reached the crew deck, she walked to the infirmary, hearing some people talking to the chef. She ignored them and continued walking. She then entered the room, seeing Naruto laughing along with Dr. Chukwas. Shepard cleared her throat to draw their attention. Oh, Commander. Good thing you're here. The doctor spoke with a smile. What's going on? She asked interestedly. Naruto replied. Nothing, Commander. I was just telling the doctor a few stories from my youth. She found them funny. Shepard nodded before looking at the doctor to ask. How's Gurus? Oh, it's amazing. He's as good as new. It's as if he had never received a single shot. The doctor replied while looking toward the bed where Gurus was resting. Shepard nodded, pleased. Then she looked at the Uzumaki and said, Naruto, come with me. I want to talk to you. The blond man stopped smiling and put on a straight face before answering. Commander, I already told you. He couldn't finish because he saw a lot of determination in her eyes, the same determination that made him want to help her. Thus, he smiled and nodded. All right, Commander. But the talk will have to wait until tomorrow. The boss decided to spend the night with Arya. It seems they managed to get along well, hee. Shepard had a tick in her eyebrow but didn't say anything about it. She turned around and walked away, only to hear Naruto's clone giggling. Hee, you're a lucky guy, boss. Wow, Arya knows how to move. He clearly wanted to annoy Shepard, who already had a prominent vein on her forehead, but she continued walking away. The clone said to top it off, Hey, Commander. The boss wants to know if you can give him a free week. He will return to the ship when you need him. After all, he has. The clone couldn't finish speaking because Shepard took out her gun and shot just below his crotch. The doctor and Shepard then saw Naruto's clone falling to the floor as he writhed and screamed why she shot him in that place, and that he could still feel pain despite being immortal. Shepard widened her eyes. She thought Naruto would dodge it. Besides, she believed that the original would suffer the same. But of course, she didn't know how the clone jutsu worked. Hence, she and the doctor quickly approached Naruto. I am sorry. I thought you would dodge it. Shepard apologized, seeing Naruto's pained expression as he placed his hands on his crotch. Nonetheless, Naruto suddenly stopped before touching Shepard's nose with his finger. I got you, the clone said with a smile. A vein popped out on Shepard's forehead, and before she could say anything, the Uzumaki continued. It's true what I said about him and Arya. The boss will return tomorrow, Commander. Then you guys will be able to talk all you want. Now I'm leaving. Goodbye. Before Shepard could say anything else, the clone lost shape until it turned into a small twig that remained on the floor. Shepard sighed and returned to her feet to go to her cabin. It was late, and she was tired due to many things, especially because of her stupid emotions. She couldn't deny she was jealous. The truth was she wouldn't have minded much if Naruto had slept with another woman. But Arya was a strong and influential woman. That was why she was so angry. She didn't know what would happen if Naruto decided not to follow her anymore because someone else convinced him not to do so. After all, he was essential in defeating the Reapers, and she wouldn't deny it even if someone put a gun to her forehead. Once she arrived at her cabin, she took a shower before lying down on her wide bed to get some rest. She would speak with Naruto the next morning, and after that, she would find the last recruit at Omega. Then she would leave this system for good to keep Naruto away from Arya. After that, she would have to see what to do to continue her mission. She could continue recruiting more people, or she could talk to the council about the Reapers. Anderson had requested her presence at the Citadel, after all. If Naruto could make the council members see those visions, she was sure they would cooperate, which would make them be better prepared for the imminent Reaper invasion. After thinking about all that, Shepard fell asleep. Chapter end.
Now watch daily exclusive and censored lemon stories and mature content, along with NSFW images, featuring harem girls characters from the fics. Access all this and more on my Patreon. Click the link in the description to explore.